Chief, just letting you know, those banners right there, if you want them in plexi, if you want them on core glass, which is cheaper, let me know too. I can laminate them on core glass.
Yeah, let's see, because the sponsors need to pay for them and send it, so maybe they just send something up.
It'd be nice. I mean, but you tell me, core glass is cheap. Core glass is that material they use for like mayor signs and stuff like that.
I don't know, that's a difference.
For a big,
que sea festivo, que no sea festivo para todo el mundo. El día 11 ya quería ir a los partidos, que ahí no se viene. Esta, voy a decir que
Yeah, we're about to get started. We got to get started in 3 minutes. Okay. Go to the conference room though. You guys can use the whole conference room if you want to keep the talking going. Gracias.
yeah, but you got caught right there. So.
Mira, voy a venir a la próxima, ya sé que estoy a 5 minutos de aquí.
Okay.
Yo vivo en Miami Springs.
Perfect.
La semana que viene tienes clase.
Sí, toda la semana. Y más, la semana que viene se llama Sanle. Llegar temprano porque...
Ya reservo desde ahora.
Ok. Gracias.
Gracias.
Sí. ¿Ya? Sí. Sí.
Let me know
Gracias
when you
por
need my
todo.
help,
Okay.
okay? Okay?
Gracias.
I,
Gracias.
Space is getting cramped. You need bigger space.
Guys, we're gonna be here for a while. Let's see. Let me set this up. The next phase is gonna be able to have a little thing to set this up and not have to do this, but I gotta. Yeah, but as of now, I still need to go over there to type. Eventually, the monitor will be inside of there, and we won't have to mess with it. Yeah, Carlos. Hey, pleasure. Nice to meet you. Yep.
You saw I reached out to Romello, right?
Who?
Influencer guy with the catalog. Brand.
That's what I get for trying to save a second and do it that way.
You want us to get out of the way for a minute?
Huh?
You want us to get out of the way?
Now. Okay. This works. All right. Is that happening on the bottom? Why is it not? Okay. So I've never done this way. And here. There we go. There. That's better. Let me get these cubes out of here because this will probably be the least PG portion of the room. Here we go. Pop one over here. All right, you guys ready? All right. Thank you guys for coming out. I hope for those of you that were here in the previous meetup event we just had, Alexis hosts once a month, first Saturday of the month, hey, long time no see, the Wizards of Ecom Spanish, Amazon seller Spanish meetups in person. Hopefully we can get them more in-person events going soon, but I appreciate those of you that came out that Spanish wasn't your first language either, and you broke out some of those AI translators. Some of you figured it out. Did you ever figure it out, Bruce? No. Igor figured it out. Where is Igor? Igor figured it out. It was perfect. If he would have just had a headset, he could have been in here doing it. But yeah, he figured it out. Live interpretation. I'm sure there was a little lag, and I couldn't tell, into Russian. So maybe he could get it. Damn, this is pretty bright, huh? Yeah. So today's meetup, we're going to talk about product ideation. I know I shared with a lot of you last week that this week was going to be the week for the English event that was going to be packed because I thought Amazon Lit was coming this week. I was off. I think Tom pointed it out to me in a WhatsApp chat when we were talking that I didn't even have an event scheduled for this week. So I just released it midweek. I apologize for that. Normally I try to give you a few weeks in advance to plan for these. The live stream is up and you'll be able to access the recording of this class afterwards. But hopefully you were able to enjoy the TikTok presentation that they did. I thought it was amazing. I've definitely blocked some time to go look for it because TikTok seems super powerful and I don't feel like I'm anything close to an expert at it. So it's one of the areas that I'm really trying to level up my knowledge in. So I don't see it as something that's going away. So anybody that's interested now, I guess there's no excuse. Even if you couldn't hear the live translation in live, you could definitely go back to your computer and have ChatGPT put something together so you can hear it in English. So no excuses anymore, right? Let me pull these up so I don't have to repeat all of these for you. But while we're going through the beginner hour, you can see some of the amazing sponsors that we do have that allow us to make pretty much everything you see here happening, from the pastries and empanadas and coffee in the back, to being able to bring in some pretty amazing speakers, to the build out of this place. For those of you that saw it when it was just construction, we've been in that other location for, who here has not been to our old location? Right? Well, that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. Oh my God, you feel like a regular that's been here for years and you haven't seen it. But we've been there for a decade. You remember? Well, you're an old timer. You haven't been here in a bit, but you're an OG. Yeah. What have you been up to?
I started my own business, electrical contracting business.
Okay. Sweet. Yeah.
Doing really well.
Great. I wish I would have known that.
Well, I'm going to dive into this again, so it's been a while.
Cool.
I'm a little rusty.
Really good. No. Okay. So we've been here a month now, I think. We've been here a month. This is our third meetup event here. So if you're used to the other location, you might see some stuff that we don't have fully active yet, but it's getting there. We've been able to hang some of our sponsor banners now. You'll see some of our sponsors here. Pretty much every sponsor we have on there, I'm trying to get sponsors that cover the different areas of what we do together. Hopefully we can get a TikTok sponsor soon. To cover different areas. Now, they're not the only suppliers that supply, services for that specific thing. Hopefully you have someone doing it if you're not doing it yourself. These, though, nearly all of them I can vouch for. Well, I can vouch for all of them and say that either I use them successfully in my businesses, or, I mean, this is not a real example, but it'll give you one. Like Stefano, I know Stefano really well. I know he's a real seller. Stefano, by the way, back there in the trenches. So if I know that there's a software that wants to sponsor us, but I don't use them, or it's not a good fit for my stack, I can go to them and say something like, listen, if you give a free license to Stefano for X amount of time, and he uses this and he vets it and he comes back to me and says, this is amazing, that would be enough for me. So these are softwares that I've either used, or somebody like Stefano or somebody that's been in the group for a long time can vouch for them. So everybody here is vouched for. If you are not in a position to switch to them or start using them, at least if you see them at an event or they come here to speak or you see them somewhere else, go up to them and say hi, because a lot of this truly is possible because of them. My wife would not let me do all this for free. If it was up to my wife, it would be paid events for each one of you coming in. So to keep this free and to keep my wife happy, the sponsor, very important, both are very important. The sponsors are a really big deal to make that happen, all right? Cool. We're gonna have a beginner hour before we get to our topic of the week. I don't have any products queued up. I have a few that I've been looking at. I didn't. This week I was sick half the week, so I didn't get time to really pull up some examples for everyone. But what was I gonna say? Oh, but we will take some questions. I feel like there's some cool stuff happening in the industry that we should talk about. And the topic today is gonna be product development. So about 2 weeks ago, I did a topic on pre-launch that a lot of you liked. This one is going to be a totally different part of the process that you're going to have to address when you start selling, and a lot of people get it wrong. So by the end of this, the idea is that you have a custom list to fit anytime you get into the product development stage, which should be the stage that you're in the most often. You'll have kind of a checklist to make sure you're not missing anything, and that you set yourself up, because if you get some of these wrong, you could nail the pre-launch and your product could totally fail later on. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. We're really gonna focus on the product development stage. Fair? Yeah. Anybody have any questions so far? Anything cool happen in anybody's business lately? Don't everybody raise your hand at once. Yes, thank you, Stefano. Oh yeah, we do have the cubes. I should have said that. If we can, throw the cubes. If not, I'll do my best to repeat for people on the stream. Yeah.
So regarding the new product bundling policy,
Yeah.
I know what I asked you. I don't know
Yeah.
if something new has happened since then, but how do you see that play out? Do you see authorized bundles working fine on Amazon, or like why do you think they did that too in the first place?
So that's a great question. And I guess I don't need to repeat it because he caught it on the mic. So I'm gonna, since it is the beginner hour, I am gonna repeat some of the stuff that I said last week because I think it's super important. And that is, a lot of people get confused as to what a bundle is, what a PL hybrid is, and what a multi-pack is. So a lot of people just use those terms synonymous, like interchangeably, and that's not the same. So I'm gonna walk through what each of those are, and then I'm gonna address your question specifically, which is where do we see this going and who does it impact? So if you have, I'm a Star Wars geek, so if you're selling this, by the way, this is not a helmet, it's a prop for those of you that keep putting it on and it doesn't fit. But if you're selling this and you wanna sell 3 of them, you can do that. But that's a 3-pack, that's a multiple, so that's not a bundle, right? And you would just illustrate that with the little Amazon 3, you know, don't create that, by the way, or you'll get suspended. But you'll have the little Amazon 3 that'll pop up, and it'll be a 3-pack. Now, if you got this one and that one and put them together, you've now created a bundle. Those are the people that have been most affected, right? But that's a same brand bundle. Another level that you could do is you could get this, and then let's say Cesar has a brand of lightsabers. So I get the Fernando brand of helmets, and I get the Cesar brand of lightsabers, because I have wholesale accounts with them, and I put them together. So that's, it's the same as the other one in the sense that it's a bundle, but I feel like there's different risks that are involved with each one. So you're at a higher risk now that you've mixed 2 different brands together, right? And so far, none of these have been with the blessing of the brand, right? If you wanted to do a 3-pack listing of this, as of now, this you should have been doing anyway, but as of now, you get a hold of the brand, and you either get them to create that 3-pack, or I guess you get the blessing to go in and create the 3-pack for them. For the multi-brand to be able to put that together, that's a really dangerous scenario to be in right now. What a lot of people were doing is they'd get these 2 together, and then they'd call it the Ting, the Ting Star Wars pack, right? Their own brand. That's always been against terms of service, because the brand name that goes on a listing is supposed to be the product that is the highest cost to it. So that would either be this one or that one. It would not be your own personal trademark. So that's always been against the rules. Unfortunately, Amazon just went through and did a mass suspension on that. In my opinion, that was pretty messed up. They should have just gone in and suppressed the listings instead of like slamming people's accounts and all the payrolls that were tied to that and people's families and stuff. That was messed up. But that's always been against the rule. That's not a new rule. The other thing you would have, I'm going to call it a sampler pack, because it's a type of bundle, but it still falls within the bundles, and that could be a chocolate sampler pack, and that is you have a Godiva, you have let me not use that one, so it'll get confusing. Imagine an Easter basket. They're still going to sell Easter baskets. A brand does not create their own brand of Easter basket, and their brand is every piece that's in there. For the most part, that's not what you see. You're going to see a little piece from all these different suppliers in there that make up this really nice basket. That's always going to be allowed. There needs to be a mechanism for something like that to be allowed. But what's going to happen now is the person with that basket, they are going to now need, they should have been doing this anyway, but first, they have communication with the brand. They have the relationship with the brand. They have approval from the brand to be able to put all that together. And I think that's where yours falls in that realm. We have virtual bundles, which doesn't apply really to what we're talking about right now, but that's more of a private label thing. To where you have 2 separate FBA listings and you've virtually created another listing to where somebody could see both products or more than one product together, buy it, and then FBA delivers them not at the same time. They pick all these different things and they send them together, but it's not put together at the FBA level. And the next one, and this is where you play a lot, and I think this is going to always be safe as long as you do this one thing, and that is hybrids. So PL wholesale hybrid, and in this case, PL wholesale hybrid or wholesale PL hybrid doesn't matter. And the only difference as to what comes first is what is the pillar product. So to create a hybrid, you need a pillar product. The pillar product is going to be the product that has the existing search. So, and for anyone not familiar, anybody here not familiar with what a hybrid is, by the way? So I don't, okay. So what a hybrid is, the example I like to give is you open an account with Pop Secret Popcorn, the one I like to give, and you get an account from them, but if you were to resell this product on Amazon, the profit margins are almost nothing. You know what, I'll give an easier one that I'm liking more, that we talk about a lot. We'll stick with this one, the ramen, right? So ramen soup. Everyone's familiar, I think, a lot more familiar with the ramen soup. You have those ramen soup packs. There's someone on Amazon that put a bunch of the different flavors together and then paired them with some chopsticks, right? So they went to AliExpress, I imagine, and they grabbed some chopsticks that are their brand, and it's possible that those chopsticks could cost more than dry noodles and plastic. So in that scenario, they have created a brand, their brand. So what's your name? Jason Soups, right? They get a trademark, they create a brand called Jason Soups. They get an account with ramen, they speak to ramen, ramen says, yes, we don't really want you selling on our listing, but if you're gonna create a totally different thing, and I like this chopstick thing you're doing, we approve that, you now have a legit listing. But the pillar product in that hybrid is ramen soups, because that's the one that everyone's searching for. No one's searching for Jason's soups, no one's searching for Jason's chopsticks. So the product that has that existing search is the pillar product, and it's ramen. You with me? And the benefit of a hybrid listing is you now can post a list, you can list a listing on Amazon, and from day one, the keywords there are keywords that have a lot of existing search on them, and you're gonna come up for that product. So it's amazing. Otherwise, if it was a pure private label product, and you just created a brand called Jason's Chopsticks, and you list your chopsticks, no one is seeing that unless you run paid ads. So it's a great way to jumpstart that and get a lot more eyeballs on your listing. There's some other complications that I'm not going to get into. It's not you list this and all of a sudden you get rich. I'm not trying to say that either. It's a business, but that's the hybrid. So whatever has the baked-in search is the pillar product, and that's technically if it's a PL wholesale hybrid or a wholesale PL hybrid. For most of us, it's a wholesale PL hybrid, right? So, okay, so what was happening is there was a lot of people that were doing this, sellers, us, some of you here, I won't call you out. I know I've been helping some of you troubleshoot this on the back end, but what you did was you opened a wholesale account with ramen. You didn't speak to them about what you were doing, and you just created another listing. And for quite some time, you've been selling them your ramen noodle soups with those chopsticks, and all of a sudden, Amazon Thanos snapped you. And some of you haven't gotten hit yet, but you're going to. That's very risky. But if you have an authorization letter and you got approval from the brand, that's always going to exist. There's no way it can't. There's too many brand collaborations that have always existed. It's a good thing for that to go away. I mean, technically, any product that's sold with Duracell batteries like is technically that. So I mean, that can never go away. But the thing is, there is approval for that to happen. You with me? Yeah, and you could just go on and on. I mean, you chip sampler packs that are not the same brand of chips, same family of chips. I mean, it goes on and on. That's allowed. You just need the approval. If you're doing it without approval, I would be very alarmed.
So what you're saying is that probably Amazon, because if you read the policy, they basically say that none of that can happen.
Right.
So it seems that based on what you're saying too, that they just were super strict with that first kind of statement.
I wouldn't say super strict. They always write their rules. Remember, their rules are not written for us. Their rules are written by their legal team to cover them in the broadest sense, and I guess be as vague as possible. And I like to interpret it that way and not strict, because that kind of implies that they know your scenario, they considered it, and they said no, right? This is a reaction to, and it's a good thing, but this is a reaction to people buying things like Prime Water and then buying a little yellow sticker with a smiley face and bundling it with a 6-pack of Prime Water and then saying it's their brand and their listing. Prime Water doesn't want that. That's not a good experience. It looks like, I mean, it looks bad. Like, isn't that why eBay exists, right? Like, it looks bad. So they didn't want it. And this is them getting rid of it. The hybrid model that you're talking about, if you were to go, if all the Amazon sellers were put together in one room and somebody got on stage and said, raise your hand if you know what private label is. Whether you sold or not, a whole bunch of people would raise their hand. Raise your hand about wholesale. Raise your hand about, everyone would. Raise your hand about wholesale hybrid. You'd see almost nothing. PL wholesale hybrid. Most people don't understand it and they don't know it. So this rule really wasn't created for that. There's nothing wrong with that. But think about it. You are creating something and you're not letting the brand whose name you're using in your listing know what you're doing with their brand.
Yeah.
So like, that's just bad on a lot of levels.
But if
At
you
the end of the day, the relationship is everything anyway. Like,
So if you have the blessing of the brand, you think
you're good.
you're good.
Now, do you never get flagged? I'm not saying that either. Can I mention the, okay. Tom, typical Tom, we went to a show, licensing show as a group for the first time, great show. Tom said, challenge accepted. I'm gonna be the first one in the group to get the license from this licensing show. So Tom does it. Can I say the license and everything? Tom has a water brand, and Tom gets, go figure, freaking amazing licensing deal with the American Red Cross, right? Huge. I mean, who does not know what that is? So they put you through the paces on this. It's like every legal document known to man is done. It's got approval from the people. What happened?
Well, Carlos recommended that I get.
Oh, you're gonna blame it on me. I'm gonna regret this.
It's complimentary. I recommended I get a letter from the brand and just tuck it in my back pocket, because eventually someone was gonna say, hey, your water with the American Red Cross logo on the side is a foul. And so someone cried foul somewhere. So Amazon and their robot somewhere shut down the listing. Now meanwhile, I have to pay royalties to the American Red Cross because I have their American Red Cross on my water bottle. So that's kind of stressful in and of itself. So I reach out to the American Red Cross and they're like, he didn't do anything. So I don't know really who did it. We speculate that it's the robots in Amazon's field, or it could be a competitor, you know, wanting to tattletale on me or something. Now we posted that letter, but Amazon being Amazon isn't exactly Johnny on the spot, and 24 hours later it did not go back up. So it's taken me about 5 or 6 days. It actually just got back up a day ago. And it's funny because I have variations of it. So I have a 24-pack, a 12-pack, a small one, a big one, whatever. And only the 24-pack went down. So my other ones were still up. So it just goes to show you that when Amazon is in this space, it's just be prepared, I think. So even the American Red Cross is like, we're super sorry, you have permission, but it still got shut down, and only one of the variations got shut down. So that's the good news, but bad news, it got shut down.
Yeah, so that's you. So are you ever, I believe it was a bot. I believe it was one of Amazon's dumb smart bots, right? That flagged it. But so will you never get flagged? No. That's kind of like nowadays an arbitrage seller selling at scale and never getting an IP complaint, right? It's going to happen at some point, and it's probably going to happen at a time that you don't like, right after you've scaled your PPC or something like that. But just if you have you're going to be in the good. Look, 5 days later, 5 days is an eternity, but it came back up. You'll be fine. You're in the right. As a matter of fact, Amazon can't tell you not to do that. Like, you have authorization. You're just selling something you're legally allowed to sell by the brand. So you're good there. Yeah.
So as a follow-up to that, so when you see all these sellers selling snack boxes, when you see all these sellers selling like snack boxes, like Crate Box and a bunch of other guys, so you will say that in order for them to be on the good moving forward, they will need authorization of all the brands that
Yes.
they have in
They
the
should have been
box.
doing it anyway. Yeah, you should have been doing it anyway. Anybody that is, and by the way, on the stream, Stefano just asked that question in the cube. I'd love to know if you heard that because he was right on the cube. And it's the first week we've brought the microphone cubes back, so God knows I'm not a techie person, so I could have set it up wrong. Yes, if you are reselling a product on, I'm thinking about this for a second because I want to be clear, but I think I'm safe saying this. If you are reselling a product on Amazon, whether it's by itself, in a bundle, with your private label, and the brand owner does not know that you are selling that product on Amazon and or bundled with a different brand or your brand, yeah, you could be an email away from, getting your listing shut down or your account. Absolutely, always. You have to pull the kids from private school. You're gonna have to break the lease. You're gonna have to do all that stuff. Yeah, but that's always been the case. It's just some people know certain brands that are just completely oblivious to what's going on, how to pull somebody off, how to even contact Amazon. So you kind of know you're in this safe space, but you're not. Like, the safest thing is selling your own brand. Start your own brand. It's your brand. You're in charge of your destiny. I would much rather deal with that and the headaches that come with, look, at this point you talk to those two women back there about how to rank your product on TikTok, you ain't got a problem. It's like the easiest thing in the, I'm not saying TikTok's easy, but it is like, it's like so easy. Like, to rank right now, just start your own brand, take advantage of that. It's rather than sit there wondering like, is this the year I'm gonna lose that account? I don't wanna do that, Yeah. Tell me, go for it, Igor.
I can open a new listing or hybrid model.
Can you open a new listing and what?
Yes, for hybrid model.
Yeah, you definitely open a new listing for
I
hybrid.
close for another people, no connect.
Well, that is one of the that is one of the motivations for some people is if I create a hybrid listing, other sellers can't get on it. But understand, and again, I know I just repeated it, but I'm telling you, people will come back to me after this event and they'll ask me for clarification again. A hybrid involves one or more of the products in your sellable unit is your brand, and it has your UPC on it. Otherwise, all you're doing is, getting an account with, Ting's Goods, and she says you have exclusivity, and then putting that together with another account that everyone gets access to. That's safer, but that's not gonna permanently save you from somebody else getting on the list. So yeah. Hold on, toss her the cube, please. I'm gonna get more cubes eventually.
Whenever you say you need to talk to the brand first, and then you get open an account with wholesale with the brand.
Yeah.
Is that the same thing that you need a letter authorization? It's
Yeah.
the same thing or two different things that you need to open an
Well,
account?
one leads to another. You need to have a conversation with the brand to get the letter of authorization. But that's what you're looking for. It's basically, it doesn't have to say letter of authorization, but like you need authorization from the brand. It needs to spell out that it's going to do this. Can't be a distributor. Can't be some random rep in the company. It needs, the paper needs to include stuff like the name of your company, your name, and that company name needs to be not like the hidden company you have that has multiple seller accounts. It needs to be the company that is showing as the company on your Amazon seller account, your phone number, your address, email. It needs to include an amount of things actually that most people don't normally include on that kind of correspondence, but Amazon still wants that kind of stuff and have it faxed. Like you want it to include all that. But if you go online, you can find plenty of example letters of authorization that you can adapt or just use. But yeah, get all that information. Make sure it matches exactly what you have in Seller Central. Not an extra letter abbreviation for your middle name. Nothing. Whatever it says, put that.
And a follow-up question for that, is it a good idea for you to approach to a brand directly first time? Initially, you mentioned that you're going to sell on Amazon.
Can you say that one more time?
Is it a good idea for you to mention you're going to sell on their product on Amazon initially, or conversation between you and the brand?
I'm gonna say 100% yes. Yeah. You wanna let the brand know that you're gonna sell their product. Yeah, I think you should be doing that even if you're a wholesaler.
Could be a little bit broad and said, I'm gonna open or I'm gonna send online without specify what is the channel that you're gonna use, and ask them if they feel comfortable. They're gonna say, well, not for this reason, not for this reason, and you can start talking with them.
Yeah,
Jane, I would recommend that when you go up to the brand, I wouldn't come out and just say, hi, I want to sell your stuff on Amazon. Maybe you want to walk over to them and say, I really like your product, get to know them, et cetera, and then say, listen, I'm an e-commerce seller. I sell on multiple platforms. I sell on TikTok. I sell on, Facebook, or, my own Shopify store. And of course, we always have to play on Amazon. Amazon is the largest playground out here. I'd like to know if I could represent your product and sell it. And I do things a little bit different, because my goal is not to have a race to the bottom, like Carlos had mentioned. If I just list those ramen noodles, everybody's gonna be the penny, the cheapest, and they're gonna race to the bottom. But if I can add a pair of chopsticks that's my brand, I'm gonna advertise for your product. All these other people that are on Amazon are not advertising. That's what makes me different. I'm gonna advertise for your product, and I wanna keep your price up. I wanna elevate your brand. I don't wanna dumb it down and cheapen the brand. So that's how I kind of approach them, is like from a multi-perspective, not just saying, I'm an Amazon seller, watch out, here I come.
Okay.
So make yourself a little bit different.
Thank you for your point.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think that's explained better than what I said.
You said better.
You guys said it better.
You guys on it?
Yeah, well, hearing you guys say it, I was like, man, I wish I would have worded that differently. But I'm gonna say, I would add this. I agree to go in, like, I don't identify, I know that's a crazy word now, but I don't identify as an Amazon seller, right? Right? I don't identify, call me Ecom, no. So I don't identify as an Amazon seller. So in my initial conversations, I don't lead with, I'm an Amazon seller, right? But if I'm gonna place an order with this is personal, like, you don't have to do this. If I'm gonna place an order with the brand, I'm not going deep on my order unless you love the fact that I'm selling on Amazon. Like, I might place a small order with you, and I'm saying I might because I don't even do that anymore. Like, the only brands that I do wholesale on are the brands that say we don't sell to Amazon sellers. That's the only ones that I want to talk to. And I talk to them, and I'm either gonna brute force them on like a massive order and get approvals and preferred pricing, or I have a full-fledged agency. I mean, we could do anything, and we do this. So like, I'm gonna be able to offer something that is better than anything you have. But I really only wanna talk to the brands and say, we don't even wanna talk to Amazon sellers. Those who I wanna talk to. So, but that's not always been the case. When I used to do that, I agree with Tom and Cesar, don't go out there and say, hey, I'm an Amazon FBA seller, will you work with me? That's bad. Yeah. But also don't go deep on an order unless, they're very clear that that's what you're doing. And I think the conversation needs to go deeper than, hey, you're okay with me selling your product on Amazon, when it's going to be a hybrid listing. Because now you're asking for more than just Amazon. You're actually to create a product that has a UPC code on it, that has their brand name in it. So that's a deeper conversation. I don't think you have the right to create a hybrid listing just because they said you could sell their product on Amazon, personally.
Thank you.
Yeah. Somebody else had something? Go for it.
Why wait listing name? First brand, then sell, and then my items.
So your question is, for the structure of a title on a listing,
Yes.
should you lead with the brand name? So I'm gonna get beat up for this a little bit. So I build brands, right? There's two major trains of thought here, right? So I build brands. I work with influencers, I do email marketing. I'm building a brand. I'm not selling some random, garlic press that's cheaper than your garlic press. Like, it's gonna be differentiated, it's gonna add value, so I'm building a brand. I am investing in content around my brand name. And the most profitable conversions and searches that you're gonna get on Amazon are for people that actually go and search your brand name and buy your product, right? So I am investing in that. That being said, that means I want to put my brand name in the front. Now, I get the counter argument to that when you're launching your product, you want to put your main searched for keyword in the front. I get it. I get the logic. I get where that instant confirmation would help. I get that the first, third, and the fifth keyword in a title have the most weight with the Amazon algorithm. I get all that. But it's just I also know that almost 99% of the people that believe that way also don't really believe in branding. So you really got to, I'm not going to say one is right and one is wrong, but I prefer to put your brand name in the front. Like, I'm going to put that's why I'm doing this. Like, so in a hybrid listing, that's sometimes slightly different. And what's happening there is, our hybrid listings, when I'm creating a pure hybrid brand, I don't really look at that the same way I would as my brand. This is kind of like a cool thing that's gonna let me cash flow something really fast, or it's something that is like almost like a Trojan horse that's gonna let me penetrate a very difficult market. So an example would be, if I wanted to start getting into selling tea or coffee beans, that's a very, very difficult category to be in, right? But if I got, I'll just use an example, I'll put Death Wish Coffee. If I could get Death Wish Coffee to agree to let me bundle their coffee with some of mine or one of my bags, the exposure I'm gonna get from Death Wish Coffee in search of people now being able to taste my coffee is really high. So what I might do is, and this is against Amazon's terms of service, just full transparency, is I would have the Death Wish Coffee there, I would rank that to a certain level, and then I would remove Death Wish Coffee from it, and it would be a purely coffee bundle of mine. So it would be a sneaky, affordable way to try to penetrate a very difficult category. Again, it's against terms of service. You've technically changed the listing, and all the reviews that were there are for Death Wish, but it happens all the time. Does that help? Please say yes.
Category. If you sell Nestle but have spoon, but have different categories.
Yeah, well, let me show you. So you're saying Nestle spoon and what else?
Yes, different category. Why maybe spoon and Nestle have different category.
Yeah, we'll pull up the Buy the Cup again. And you can see, I think it's this one. No, it's an ad. I don't click on ads. There we go. So here.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is probably against terms of service, but like I'm assuming, and it might not be, the plastic that it takes, because it says cost, it doesn't say sales price. The cost of the plastic here and the powdered coffee creamer that's inside, how much do you think that cost? Versus what's the cost of this spoon? So I say the coffee creamer costs more, right? But which means this should be a Coffee Mate branded listing. But let's skip that. To your question, Igor, here it is.
Yes.
So look what they did. They didn't put Buy the Cup original, Buy the Cup scooper original powder Coffee Mate, right? They didn't do that. So they didn't lead with their brand name. They led with the brand name that had the most search. So in a hybrid listing, I'm okay with that. But if I had a brand called Buy the Cup that was my brand, not a hybrid, I would lead with my brand name in the title, because that's nowadays, especially if you're like somebody like again, we're doing some stuff on TikTok, but the stuff we're doing on TikTok, if we're getting a bunch of influencers to do it, what we're finding is that when we get a bunch of these creators to create a bunch of content, a percentage of them, of the people that are buying, I don't know the reason anymore because it seems like the shipping times from TikTok's getting quicker, but a percentage of them are saying, I don't know about this, I'm just gonna go buy from Amazon. So how are they gonna, they're not gonna go to Amazon and say, powdered coffee creamer 4-pack, they're gonna search your brand name. That's what they saw. So put your brand name front and center here is my 2 cents. But hybrid, get loose with it, whatever you like. Your brand, put it in the front. Okay? But no wrong answers. Yeah. Yep.
Wait, hi.
How are you?
Go ahead.
I know I still owe you a message too with some lists.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm confused because I feel like you just said before, if you have like a bundle to put the more searched name and it's going to give your brand exposure. So did I miss something in the middle? Because now
Yeah.
you're saying put your brand first, and I understand what you're saying regarding TikTok though.
Yeah, so let me walk it back. So what I'm saying is when you are going to create a hybrid,
Right.
you start by picking a pillar product.
Yes.
Right. So your pillar product is going to be the one that has the most search.
Right.
So that's just for deciding on how to build around a hybrid. Like that's how you start to go build a hybrid. So you find out your pillar product. Without it, it's you just be all over the place. So that really though has nothing to do with the order of keywords in the title.
Does the company that you're do they care how it's listed?
No. If you have approval, they're not going to care.
Right,
I
okay.
mean, but if they do, that would be part of that conversation you have when you get the letter of agreement. Some brands are, I would say especially, like a lot of people that were messing around and my wife just got an account with Sephora, like on the influencer side, right? What they said you could do and position the product next to was like pages of no, right? So again, this is an assumption of mine. I'm assuming things like luxury beauty and certain other things, they're like, if they were to say, yeah, you could do a hybrid, they probably don't want your stuff sitting next to some garbage applicator because I think it makes their brand look cheaper, right? So I've never had to have that conversation though for anything on a hybrid listing, but it's possible. But yeah, that's when that would come up.
But wait, so just, sorry Tom, back up 1 second. If you have a hybrid listing, and let's say you're just starting out your own brand, and you get an account with Coffee Mate,
Yeah.
don't you want to put them first?
Yeah, no, and that's what we're saying. So
Yeah.
in this case, the pillar product is Coffee Mate.
Yeah.
He put a spoon with it. Right. So, and what might have been confusing when I came over here is I started talking about right here, the brand name.
Right.
So the brand name of a listing is supposed to be the brand name of a listing is, this is an Amazon rule, the brand name of the listing is supposed to be the name of the brand whose product costs the most in the group, right? So what I did is I sidetracked for a second and I was like, in this case, I think they're technically in the wrong by Amazon's rules. So now let's get back on track. Back on track here is you have a listing, you have decided that your pillar product is gonna be Coffee Mate, right? You've decided to add a spoon, your brand, AliExpress, right? There's your grouping. When you're creating the listing, the first, third, and fifth keyword in the title on Amazon has the most weight, right? So if you were to put by the cup, the original powder Coffee Mate creamer, you're really not taking advantage of just the way Amazon's algorithm works best. You want to put lead with, for a hybrid, you'd want to, there's a good argument to lead with the keyword, in this case brand name, that has the most search. People are searching for Coffee Mate. And if they do, you get indexed and you come up. That's the 50,000 foot view of it. Yeah?
Carlos, type in crate box snap box. I think this will help you with what he's talking about.
Crate box?
Crate box.
Crate?
Crate box. And then snap box, whatever. You don't have to all. But if you just go to any one of their listings. So say I put crate box first.
So in this case, they're building a brand, and that brand is Cravebox. So, yeah, very similar. This is a really good example, Tom. They don't own any of those brands, but they've hopefully got an approval from those brands. You got hit with it?
No,
Yeah.
I said that.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that this also goes to a question that you brought up, is like, is this against TOS? Because the box certainly is not worth more than the candy.
Well, what I'm saying is this would fall into a variety bundle, right? In this case, I don't know if any of these products.
They sell a lot of boxes. I mean, I think one of their listings, they're saying 10,000 boxes of this a month.
Right, so I'm just going to assume here that none of these are their brands, and this was kind of like to Stefano's question. This is never going to go away. Like, that, I mean, I'm going to make some assumptions here. I'm going to assume that they have approval from all these brands to put it in this box. They were running ads. They've been around a long time. I mean, I bet you if we did some research on this, this isn't somebody that saw an inspiration arbitrage video and that's like trying to like evolve out of it, right? So like, you know, and had like 3K extra on their credit card, right? So this is somebody that's trying to build a brand, and they're trying to build a brand around a box. That's a business model. People do that. There's boxes. You just went to Sub Summit. There's subscription boxes. Like that's what that is. People put stuff together in boxes. That's a legit way of doing business, and that is not what Amazon was targeting, in my opinion. Now, if they don't have approval from any of those brands, don't you think that's a high-risk listing? What is that, 30 different products? 35. 35 different brands shooting at them at any point that they could run out of stock on, that they could say, hey, I'm not selling it to you. Hey, I mean, that's no way. I would say they have approval, and that's legit. It's a legit business. That sounds like an Advil moment to me. I wouldn't do it.
I have a follow-up question. So why do you think they only kind of, or they started with consumables? Because something that I was thinking too is that maybe they're worried about some type of liability.
They didn't just start with consumables, though. It was consumables and a lot of beauty products that they hit on. And I would say, based on, again, I don't have like the bat phone to Amazon, but I've been doing this full time for over 15 years. And every year, Amazon tightens it on making selling on Amazon less appealing to hobbyists, right? If you're a business, gating is not an issue, right? If you're a business, getting a safety data sheet for your product is not an issue. You have insurance, not an issue. So they've rolled out things over the years to make things safer and more attractive to serious business owners. I believe they targeted the food and beauty category the hardest is because those are massive categories on Amazon, and they're the ones that could hurt people the quickest. If you have bad ingredients in this, I mean, this could be going in a kid's mouth, right? How many do you think Amazon could survive with if somebody, and you know you got some crazies in the world, decided to put some acid or something in some topical spray in the beauty program, right? And you got 2 people going viral on TikTok saying, don't buy beauty products from Amazon, look what happened to my face. They ain't going for that. Like, it'd be devastating, you know? So those categories also happen to be the ones that, beauty they've done a pretty good job at, like they're very strict in like the topicals category. But with food, they're actually shockingly loose. Well, you actually spoke to that a while back. I think in one of your videos you talked about, I won't say your brand, but you talk openly about it. Yeah.
Transparency Foods.
Transparency Foods. Talks openly about his brand, and there was this one, I think it was Instagram or something. Great content, by the way.
Thanks.
And you talked about how you were actually kind of shocked how they didn't require certain certifications or ingredient things, and yeah, it's alarming that they allow that to happen. So yeah, I think they hit it hard because it's past due. They've been hit this 8 months ago. It was supplements. Supplements now needs a lot of paperwork done and regulation. So if you're a serious business owner, and you are because you're here in Miami, which I think is a gorgeous day on Saturday afternoon, you could be anywhere trying to level up your business, so it doesn't apply to you. When they roll out a new regulation to make something harder, I love it. Yeah, hire specialists if you don't know how to do it, get past it, qualify, keep selling.
the way, that's an 8-figure brand. They have 60,000 square foot warehouse in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Sounds pretty legit to me. Something tells me it's not an OA brand. Huh?
They're doing this since like 2016, 17. I remember when they have a few boxes.
Yeah.
Like this one Kia box or like.
Yeah. By the way, is anyone looking at the stream to see if we have any questions? I meant to ask that. Stefano, could you pop the? Yeah, I think you had to go to the bathroom. Do you mind? Because I forgot to say that in the beginning. Anybody that has questions on the stream, that way I can, because we're about to get into the topic of the week. I know we're sorry, go ahead.
Can I ask another question about the TikTok girls in the back?
Depends on the question.
TikTok girls? The TikTok ladies?
They're charging now to answer questions.
Do you guys charge to help brands on TikTok? Can you help brands?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we can help you.
Okay.
50% more for you.
50% more. Cool. Yeah. Like that kind of.
By the way, there are some resellers with great box TikTok shop, and they are selling
Yeah, I was literally just about to say this.
resellers from this great box. Imagine that.
Or people doing the same thing, but with snacks from our country, for example, like the snacks that we used to have in our country. There are resellers doing those boxes with our candies and the Mexican candies, for example.
Am I sharing my screen?
There's also one called Sushi Candy. So Sushi Candy makes a box just like that, and it's all Japanese candies. So it's the same thing. It's going crazy. I saw them at a trade show called Sub Summit, which is a trade show just for subscriptions. So subscription boxes of foods, of beauty products, of T-shirts. I met a lady that was selling the ring box. So it was when someone got engaged, they would get 12 months of a monthly subscription about getting married, and then she kept that list. 2 or 3
Jesus.
years later, she was doing a subscription box called the Belly Box for when they got pregnant. Based out of Sarasota, she did 17 million in sales in the last 4 years.
Thank God my wife did not know about that. No. Well,
There's
yeah.
no questions on YouTube.
No, okay.
Please, yeah.
Wow, it must have been that boring, huh? No, so
You're that like,
thorough.
thorough.
I like that one.
Deep in your research.
So, what you just mentioned, I was going to say, if you're reselling products, it is significantly harder to resell most brands on Amazon and not TikTok. Like it seems to be very easy to list things for sale on TikTok and sell. Affordably sell.
So much content on Crate Box right now. They're gonna kill it.
Yeah. All right. What other questions we have? We have a few more minutes before we jump over to product development.
Have you gone to Affiliate Summit?
No. Well, long time ago, pre-COVID. Yeah, I didn't like it.
You didn't like it?
No.
There was one that I went to with Nate in New York. There's a really big one called Affiliate Blast that's in LA, Las Vegas. I'm sorry, that's the one to go to.
Yeah. You liked it?
I was like, it was the first time going, so to me it was like, oh my gosh, what am I into? And these people it's a whole new world. Like,
Yeah.
they sell everything from leads to, all kinds of affiliate products. It could be, like I ran into someone that was selling pet insurance, so you could become the affiliate for selling pet insurance. So there's just a massive affiliate community that we have no idea that exists because we're so focused on brands, right? And reselling a brand, growing a brand. But yeah, it's good. Like,
Also, when you say affiliate, are you referring to influencers getting a cut? I feel like, or are you referring to? I feel like there's a different. I know there's like a lot of similarity, but when I talk about influencers and I talk about affiliate, I feel like I'm having two different conversations. Right.
Yeah. I had a meeting with.
Like I make a bunch of affiliate commissions over the last 10 years because every now and then a software that I really like, I'll recommend. And thankfully you'll get it and I'll get like $4 and then those $4 add up and I feel like that's more of an affiliate thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know a lot of people, it exists, but I don't know a lot of people in the private label space or in Amazon space. I hear them talk about that they're scaling with affiliates, but when you press the conversation, what they're scaling with is influencer marketing and not really affiliates. So I was just curious. I mean, if you can make either one work, that's great.
Yeah, I'm just trying to learn.
Yeah.
So you can get a program that would be an affiliate program, you could broadcast that to affiliates, or you can go hire affiliates. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you could actually create your own affiliate program and then be broadcasting say the CJ Mission Junction or something like that. Those are like really big places that you could get somebody to advertise to everybody or get affiliates, get influencers as a question.
I think one of the easiest ways to make, I know it's kind of a sidetrack, but the easiest way to make money as an affiliate is to just find a few, like, of the things that you love and that you talk about already all the time or create content on all the time, and get an affiliate set up with them. And if they don't have one, contact that person. I don't care if it's like Misha's Cupcakes. If you're constantly referring people to Misha's Cupcakes, like, just reach out to them and say, hey, I've been pretty successful at, like, people telling my body language on how much I love your cupcakes. So, like, can we set something up? And since it's something that you're already talking about anyways, since it's something that everyone in your network genuinely knows you do, you know, that it just naturally sells better.
Yeah.
Versus, I'm not saying you can't, but I know some people that would be like, oh wow, you know, ClickFunnels, they have a really generous affiliate commission. Let me go out there and, like, try to figure out how to create content on ClickFunnels and just put it out there to people. You have no one in your network who's ever heard you talk about it, and it gets harder.
I was looking more for a place of, you see these big brands like AG1, for example.
Yeah.
Which I think has a very strong affiliate program where they give, I think, like 15% for life to whoever drives traffic to them. And
But they have a very strong affiliate program that's not top of funnel. It's with their existing audience. So, like, you're using AG1, you receive an email about AG1 or Kachava or something like that, and you love this thing, and, like, here's a very generous code for you to share this with somebody you know. Is that what you're referring to? Because that does really well.
I think that's referrals. And then I'm thinking like Tim Ferriss, for example, who sends, he has them on their email list or whatever. Anyways, I had a meeting with this impact.com, which is an affiliate network.
Yeah, I'm with them.
And they were saying that, yeah, you can have access to restaurants, coffee shops, nutritionists, all that stuff, which is different from the influencers that you were talking about.
Yeah, I think, again, I think for the most part, absent knowledge on how to create a lot of unique content and run certain types of paid ads to scale an affiliate thing, the average person could be making a lot more than they think structuring affiliate things with stuff they already use, know, like, and talk about. But if
I'm coming from a place of selling the product that I have, right?
selling to the market you have.
No, selling the product that finding people that can sell my product.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to hear the successes you've had on it. I've not had success getting my brand and saying, hey, I notice you're really good at making money with affiliate commissions on products that are in the health grocery space, right? I've not had success. Like, the majority of them wanted a higher ticket item, or they wanted me to create an offer that left me with no profits. But it was very, very profitable and very scalable for me to find influencers, usually micro influencers, that could, I can say your product?
Yeah.
You say it first.
It's a monk fruit sweetener.
Yeah, it's a monk fruit sweetener, that I'm gonna get this monk fruit sweetener and just, you know, what was that hot sauce thing? I put that shit on everything, right? And instead, just a quick TikTok that's showing all these, like, 100 things that you put monk fruit sweetener on, and I put it on everything, right? I bet you that does a whole hell of a lot better. It's significantly more affordable to get some influencers to create that kind of content than it, in my experience, it's been than my product. But I'd love to hear what you learn on that. Huh?
What's the fastest way to gain followers on TikTok?
Oh, God. I would ask them.
Yeah, what's the fastest way to gain followers on TikTok? If you don't have like that much content and you just want to have for a run or a personal run, for brand, not affiliates and for brand. How you can like really go to your agency? There's
Can you guys pass the cube over there, Stefano, a little bit? So they,
Yeah, because I think the easiest way is UGC content and then running ads.
and the question is how best for people on the stream, the
yeah.
easiest way to get more followers on TikTok.
Yeah.
So you're saying really good UGC and a bunch of it.
And it's more about consistency, yeah.
Keep posting, keep replying what is working for you. Like try to
Replicate.
replicate what is the most the videos that has the most views. So start like
Same topic, different ways to talk about it. So just choose, I don't know, like around 3 or 4 that you have on your account with the most views, and just do exactly the same, like, I don't know, in a different scenario. Like with different, a different person, but doing like, speaking about exactly the same.
So maybe if it's talking about my favorite way to make this recipe, if you created a video and you were wearing a Mario mask, and you're like, oh, I'll do another one with a Luigi mask, and I'll do another one, same thing with another one with.
But doing exactly the same.
keep doing what is keep doing what works for you, and do it one. I don't know how to say it in English. Like
I know.
yeah.
Just like that. And you know what? You should try. There is like AI from TikTok and the TikTok Creative Center. I don't know if you have tried that. So you go and take a look for the most viral video on your niche, and then go to the Creative Center and say, like, I need a video similar to this one, similar to ChatGPT, and create a new one, but based on the most viral one. So you, it's on TikTok, TikTok Creative Center.
You can go through the mobile, or you can look at the desktop.
Both.
Both?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there
Good.
is where you're gonna see, for example, the music or the things that are.
What happened for them?
You can use on your team.
You want to raise it a little?
That's amazing.
I can. I'm gonna take it off the screen share anyway, so we can get into the topic of the week. Wow, you're not writing cursive. Kind of disappointing. Of course, doesn't everyone? Oh, hello, Carmen.
First time I'm here in a second.
Oh, good. Pretty good. All right. All right, we can get into the topic we have today. Before I forget, I know I gave a little announcement last week, but I was wrong about this week. Next week, I highly recommend, if you want to get a seat, that you come early, because we'll probably have 100 and something people here next week for the wholesale topic on Amazon Lit, with Amazon Lit.
How much do they do in sales a year?
I think 60. I think 60 million. They should be pretty open about a suspension they just went through too with everybody else that they got out of. So curious to see what their 2 cents is about whether they think hybrid's safe or not. They're probably like very gun shy still. That's next Saturday. In November, which should be announced this week, but after that one, besides the Thanksgiving Day event, one of the Saturdays, a lot of us are going to be in Chicago for the Private Label Manufacturers Association event. And the week before, we'll have this is not going to be the topic, but it's going to be, I'm going to do a presentation on best practices for approaching a conference, talking to supplier, talking to somebody exhibiting at a booth. That can apply anywhere, but a lot of the examples I'm gonna give are gonna be PLMA specific. So again, if you're not going to PLMA, it's still gonna be a great meetup event. I think you should come, but I'll have like in parentheses pre-PLMA. So, and then with that, we have like 2 more meetups and we're in Christmas, so it's wild how fast this year's gone. Thanksgiving Day we don't have, Thanksgiving weekend or whatever, I think it's on the weekend, we don't have a meetup that weekend. I was just saying to kind of plan your calendar. I'm still holding out hope that somebody in the group is willing to volunteer and help organize like a Friendsgiving type of thing that we can host here. I can't do it, I'm bad at organizing that stuff. So, did I see a smile? Really? That's brave. That gives me anxiety. I'd rather launch a new product in Q4 than organize a Friendsgiving. I don't know. Is a Friendsgiving kind of like a bring your own, like everyone bring a plate? I don't know. I could also cater some food. I don't know. It's processed food. All right. Maybe announcements. I feel like I'm missing something. No. Okay. I'll be standing up and sitting. Yep.
On my feed, the screen's half cut off.
Yeah. Okay. Really? Oh yeah. So I just switched it. So now you should see me, and on the feed you shouldn't see this. If I switch to, I don't believe I'm going to be showing anything on the screen for this topic. So if I do though, I'll switch it back so everybody watching on the stream can see the actual screen. But right now I just had to put something unless I just disconnect the HDMI. And I didn't know what else to post for right now. I could post my podcast there. Maybe some of you will feel guilty and go leave a review. That sound like a good tactic? All right, I made some notes here just because I put together 9 different areas that you should be focusing on in the product development stage. There's hundreds. So there are hundreds of different things that you could focus on just in the product development stage. I picked the ones that I feel most people are getting wrong or ignoring. So if I don't mention something, don't think that it's not product development. Feel free to chime in and say, hey, what about this? And we can talk about that. I'm gonna lead with the first one that if you're not doing this, I feel like if it hasn't happened already, and some of you've talked to me and I know this, if you are selling Me Too products on Amazon, at this point you have to see your profit margin evaporating with rising CPC, the less than $20, China Direct, all of that stuff. Your profit margins have to be evaporating. For the last decade I've been trying to harp on differentiation. For me, one of the things that's at the heart of product development is differentiation. If you want to launch a Me Too product, you can, but I've been warning you. It's not hard. I've been warning you. It's dangerous, and the profit margins are not really there. And if you happen to find something using one of these softwares that you do see that it has some profit right now, I promise you, there are dozens of new sellers that are discovering it with you and are right behind you and flooding the market on it. And when that happens, the price tanks and there's no profits. So the idea here is to make money, right? There's some exceptions to the differentiation. So if you're selling white rice, which I don't think you should, I'm not saying that you should dye your rice, right? If you're selling we were talking about, obviously not saying the product, but we were talking about a product earlier. It is what it is. Like, you can differentiate on the packaging, you still need to stand out, but a lot of what I'm talking about here is differentiating the product in a way that is obvious in the main image on Amazon. If you get a product, like you get this helmet, and you make it to where yours has this differentiation of where it's extra comfortable inside, you're still seeing this on the main image. You're not seeing this. When somebody actually has it, they may notice that it is more comfortable, but it is not obvious on the main image. So you invested more into making this more comfortable in the inside, and you decided to sell it for 10 bucks more, and to somebody wearing it, it's worth it, but they're not seeing why that thing is $10 more in the main image. It would be very difficult to do. Obviously, there's an exception to everything, but for the most part, this is a safe rule to follow. Differentiate your product. So for Amazon purposes, differentiation is going to be something that is very obvious in the main image, right? The other half of differentiation, this is all going to be on point one for differentiation, is it also should be as defensible as possible. So I've come up with this little scale. I mean, again, there's some exceptions to this. A 1 to 10 scale you can kind of look at, and if enough of you find this helpful, I'll put it together in a doc or something. But 1 on the differentiate, 1 is on this scale is going to be 10 differentiators, and 1 being the least defensible to the most defensible. So your 1 is going to be color. You've changed the color of your product. That is a change. That is differentiating, and that is obvious in the main image. If everybody is selling a blue product, and you happen to sell an orange one, and orange just happens to be a color that looks really nice and gets people's attention and fits that product, that's going to do well. But the defensibility of that is just, you know, Candace, you saying, oh, my competitor came out with an orange one. You call your supplier, you don't even increase your MOQ. They're just changing some pellets, or they're adding something, and now you have another variation. You have more eyeballs on your listing. It's not defensible at all. Ironically, there's a, you guys know the Angry Orange case study? Everybody does? Okay. So there's a case study of the Angry Orange. That was a color differentiator, and it worked really well for a while. It was for a brand that was already wildly successful. They made it even more wildly successful with the brand, but that impact wouldn't have been felt as much as if they were a starting product and they changed it to that color, because their entrenched competition would have made the same color change and they wouldn't have recognized the 17 million additional in sales gains. Okay? Number 2 on this differentiation list is multiples. It's a way to differentiate. It's obvious in the main image, but it is very non-defensible. So a multiple here is going to be, and there's a way you can make multiples a little more defensible, but for the most part, you sell a remote and you now have 3 remotes, right? It's different in the main image. You can play with the pricing. I think it's a weak one. Where I think you can get a little creative with this is what most people will do with the 3-pack is they'll just have all 3 products in their envelope, and they'll put those 3 envelopes together and they'll wrap it, and that's a 3-pack. Let's say it was remotes, and let's say you could put it in functional packaging, and that packaging doubled as something that kind of Velcroed or stuck to the wall and also could act as a holder for your 3 remotes, whereas you couldn't do that with single remote carriers. There's something to be said for packaging differentiation throughout this scale, but for the most part, it's non-defensible. You're probably going to notice an uptick in sales and some extra profits for a little while, and it's just a matter of the next cycle, your competition coming in and wiping out your gains, especially if they're much stronger in the category. Again, I'm going to be talking mostly as if you're applying this for the first time, so you're trying to launch in a category. You're getting ready to launch in a category. Some of this you can take with a grain of salt if you're dominating the category. Make sense? Yeah. Number 3 for me is going to be, and this is kind of 3 and 4, but we're going to talk about size and re-engineering. And what it looks like is, let's say, so for those of you that have been selling for a long time, Jungle Scout came out with around the time it first came out with a little case study. It was like the first one in the space. It was amazing, and they called it Jungle Sticks. And who remembers Jungle Sticks? Carmen, I know you do. Fernando, yeah. And what they did was they got some bamboo sticks to, do marshmallows on the fire. And I think they added more sticks to the pack, or maybe they made them a little longer. Yeah, they made them extra long sticks. Makes sense, right? So number 3 here with re-engineering and size would have to do with they changed the size of it. The reason I like to put this one with 3 and 4 together and call it size and re-engineering is the defensibility on extending the length of these little wooden sticks is very low. It's not very defensible. But if you lengthened it and made it stainless steel, that's a lot more defensible. The mold cost on getting those things made in stainless steel is much higher. If you made it a little longer and added a little cover to protect your hand when you're getting close, so like that would fall into size and engineering. The length, the making it more compact, all of that would fall into a size differentiator. That has some defensibility to it. Usually, you're now stepping up where you're a little more defensible on what you're doing with the product. When you couple this with re-engineering a product, you start getting into like very defensible. Examples of this would be, I love, and we might do this in a meetup one day, is just go into Jungle Scout and filter for oversized products. We want to see oversized products, right? And if you see something that is a couple inches off, or maybe no more than a foot past what oversize is, if you can re-engineer that to fall slightly under oversized, you can own that category. Examples would be, I used to sell these desiccated polymer gel beads, and I sold them in you know those big protein jugs, right? Yeah, I think you see them on the shelf, like the big tanks. I used to sell them in that. And the shipping on this, and this was very like merchant fulfilled days and even FBA, the storage costs on that was high. The shipping cost on that thing was high. But instead, I got the same quantity, because remember, you don't fill those things to the top. You ever open a thing of protein and it looks like it's only half full? Instead, I got a local company, standuppouches.net. They have these plastic bags. It fits the same quantity. It's flat. And I sized it to fit inside of a flat rate envelope. I crushed the category. I could spend, 5x what anybody else could in ads and still they just couldn't make a sale and be profitable. So let's say you also saw one of those not one of the big foosball tables, right? But you have these small tabletop foosball games, and they're like 3.5 feet. But if you IKEA that thing, is what I call it, and you just go to the factory and say, hey, I want this to be no bigger than, this, and I want the pieces to lock together. And when I ship them, I want the rods that you use inside, and I want them stacked, and you put the dimensions of the box, you dominate the category. So re-engineering the size of an existing oversized product to not be oversized means you're playing with the size of the product, that's why I put these two together, and you're re-engineering. So if you couple those two together, you start getting into where you can be very defensible in your product. Like could somebody repeat that? Yes. So-and-so watching the inspirational webinar on how to make millions with private label, and no, they're not doing that. They're not going through all that. They're being told to not even look at those products because it's oversized. The next one is molds. I'm just going to bunch a bunch of stuff into this. You pull a mold. The biggest argument I hear for not getting a mold done of your product, and by the way, I'm not saying you see this remote, it's available for sale, but you're like, no, I'm going to make my own mold of this existing thing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about doing something structurally different, and that's apparent in the main image of the listing, where you pull a mold and do something different. Most people don't do molds because it's expensive. So to give you some ballpark prices, if you wanted to make this, and say this didn't exist and you wanted to make this, it's plastic, it's 2 pieces, right? This is probably $7K in plastic molds that you need to make. Yeah, it's about $7,000. I'm close, right? If we had a ceramic, porcelain, stoneware, glass, cup, carafe, decanter, I'm looking at $150 to $250 to get a mold on that, right? When we get into metals, it starts getting very expensive. So if I want to make this like bad, hookah stem with like dueling dragons on it and all this stuff here, I could be paying $20,000. for that thing, depending on the metals. But most people don't, and again, most people are in their first rodeo getting into private label. Most people are like, I don't want to spend on a mold. I'm just going to get the product and I'm going to test it. And if it works, you know, and I see that I win, then I'll go all in and I'll pay for that mold. But let's use the middle of the ground one with the plastic mold. That say you did this and it was going to be 7K. Again, I love glass, ceramic, and porcelain because every guru tells you not to sell it on Amazon because it's fragile. There is protective packaging you can get that you can play football with a light bulb that costs about $1.50. Like, I know this was my category. This is where I did a lot of damage in. And you could do some real cool differentiated stuff now. If you just order it from them and get a mold and ship it in a poly mailer, it's gonna turn into dust. It's gonna shatter. FedEx and UPS is rough with products, but there is so many things you could do with packaging to protect a fragile item, right? And you never have to worry about knockoffs from other countries. You never have to worry about hijack listings. You never have to worry about Me Too products. It's amazing. But let's use this one, and let's say it wasn't, you know, 3 parts to this. And let's just say it was a 5K mold. You avoid it, so you get the Me Too product and you sell it. You're now gonna have inefficient ad spend. Your conversion rate's gonna stink because you look like one of 10 other products. And very quickly, you will have opportunity costs, I guess the word would be, or losses, unnecessary losses in ad spend that are gonna far exceed the 5K you spend on that mold to differentiate. So I highly recommend you pull a mold and differentiate some any chance you get, because you're creating something that, in a sea of things that look like this, if your thing has the same function but it has a nicer look to it and looks slightly different, that's what's going to catch somebody's eye on the listing. That scroll stopper is what's going to get people to buy your product, assuming you have a good listing and a good product and you have good reviews. But molds are really important. So we're on number 5. Number 6 and number 7. Number 6 has a lot to do with what I call black boxing. And there's a lot of different flavors to this. So assuming your product falls into the 3 or 4 on this category, you don't have all the components of your product made at the same factory. So you pulled a mold on 2 different pieces, but neither one of them assembles the product. It goes to a third place and they assemble it. So there is no, you know, Amazon seller who's deciding they want to get into this and it goes on Alibaba and sees, oh, this is the factory that makes it. You know, they don't have all the components to be able to run that mold and make it for somebody else. So you could have, it dramatically increases the complexity of the project because nobody wants to be accountable. So if you have a jewelry box that has a glass top and one's making the wood and one's doing the etched glass, and the glass comes over here and it doesn't fit, the glass factory is going to say that the box wasn't made to specs, and the box people are going to say the glass people screwed up in what they're doing. So it really creates a lot of complexity, so you have to really understand what's going on and stay on top of it. But if you do, it is a very strong form of differentiation. And it's one of the only ones besides the last one that actually buys you significantly more time. Because some of these other ones, somebody could decide to re-engineer the game box. With this one, they need to pull 2 different molds. They need to find 2 different factories that make, so this really extends you out sometimes 3-4 years of life on the product, which is an eternity of you making money. That was 6. Number 7 is going to be technological differentiator. A technological differentiator that I like to use a lot is an Amazon branded mobile app. So I've shown examples in the past. I'll try to pull one up that I just think quickly illustrates it the best. And I have to jump into my order history to show this real quick. I hope my wife has not ordered anything super wild, right? Yeah. Balloon kit. All right. There we go. So this balloon kit sells for like $8.99. Everyone sells a similar balloon kit for $8.99. They sell theirs for $19.95. The only difference, and they're one of the best sellers in, The only difference is they have a mobile app. That's what the product. Now you think of mobile apps when you think of health-related products like watches and baby monitors and alarm systems and that very obvious connect between the two. But most people don't realize that it's not limited to that. There doesn't have to be a, you can't use this without X, right? This could be something that lets you know of best practices for cleaning your trash can after use. It could be a site that, for example, for some of Tom's products with his fertilizers, it could be something like how to really measure out the type of fertilizer you're using. And if you wanted to take it a step further and say you had a product that required some type of calculation or anything, you could just come into something like this and create a back-end calculator here saying how much soil do you have, what type of plant, and based on that you should put in this amount of fertilizer at this time of the year, and it's just some back-end stuff that's done on the back of a calculator. So you could have a very interactive app, and you could make something fit that wouldn't normally seem to fit like a sports watch. You with me? It's a massive differentiator. This one is very defensible because it's technically your copyright and your IP that's in this. The perceived value goes through the roof. It's affordable to do and allows you to sell more. So this is a great one, right?
With regards to when it says something like 1,000 sold in the last month, 100 sold in the last month, to try and get an idea of what product will do on a yearly basis, are those numbers at all accurate?
The ones that you see displayed here are the ones in the software.
Like if you were to go back a screen or looking at a bunch of different comparable items, and it'll say 100 sold in the last month, 40, 1,000 sold in the last month. I don't know how you can see it, but it often pops up when you're comparing. If they're in your cart or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. 20K sold in the past month.
Yeah, that is fairly accurate. But what that doesn't, well, it's more accurate than in certain categories than others. But, well, I'm going to say this. I like it to be a lot more accurate than the softwares produce. But this doesn't mean that those weren't all, that doesn't mean those were profitable. That doesn't mean that, they didn't run a lightning deal at a loss for X amount of time. So I'd take it with a grain of salt. Yeah. It also doesn't mean, oh my God, they did this. I'll turn on ads and spend money too for that amount. No, but you don't know if they're in brick and mortar stores. People are seeing it and buying on Amazon. You don't know where their traffic's coming from to get these sales. There's a lot of moving parts that would influence that. That is usually not, at that level is usually not, they're just on Amazon and running ads. Yeah.
So back on the technological differentiator.
Yep.
Does Amazon has at the moment like a official feature showing that the product is accompanied by the software, or it's on brand side to?
It's on the brand side.
To teach the consumers that hey, we have an app with it.
It's heavily on the brand side. There is stuff on the back end fields that you can do, usually with a bulk upload file on the back end of a listing to connect it and let you know that there's other features here, what it's compatible with, what app stores it's in.
So the brands will rely on the packaging for the consumer to actually follow up on that.
The brand would rely on, what you're not allowed to do is you're not allowed in your technological differentiator. Like for example, this one says, and I'll say it out loud for anyone watching on the stream, but if somebody just searches for deluxe balloon animal kit with web app, right? It says web app included balloon play video tutorials. They're not talking about a deliverable. They're not saying, and free download upon purchase. Amazon's not gonna, you're not allowed to, I guess the word would be bifurcate. You're not allowed to split the sale, the deliverable. Amazon needs to control the full deliverable. Now, with this, it's showing, I mean, think about it. My kid saw balloon animals. He wants me to make them. I'm like, okay, I could go on YouTube and try to figure this out. I'm gonna pop a whole bunch of balloons, right? Wow, This one has actual video tutorials on how to do this thing. Like, yeah, I'm there. Kids are gonna cry less. I'm not gonna waste as much time. Like, this works. So the more you can kind of make that fit, the better. This also becomes very, very precious, lucrative. It's almost a billboard right here, because your app does not actually have to say this inside the app. It could be a different screen for each of your products. You could test different things. Like, I wouldn't have put web app included. I think it's obvious. It shows a mock-up of a mobile app. And then I wouldn't have wasted space in my title by writing that as well. But balloon play, I like it. I wouldn't have put it front and center with the brightest words that I'm gonna look at. Video tutorials would have been good. I would have shown a cutout of a video of the most popular balloon animal in motion of being made with that little triangle that indicates, hey, tap me and there's a video. You know what I mean? Like, I would have done something like that, like show, don't tell, right? So anyhow, technological differentiator. So that's number 7.
If you allow me just to follow up on that.
Yeah.
What I was more interested is in the part where you don't miss the customer to follow up or to use this feature and avoid negative feedback,
right,
and misunderstanding the product.
So what happens is, this is and we build these, right? But the first step is you need to get this and you put it on the listing. So you put it up on this main image. They've now can raise their price and sell it for more. They now have a scroll stopper that's going to get more customers. And they've increased their click-through rate, right? That's phase 1. Phase 2 is, when the customer receives this, I doubt they remember that there was a mobile app in the main image, right? I doubt they even understand that had such a big impact on them clicking on the listing to begin with, right? They're done, like their life continued. It might be a month later that they get to the actual frickin' balloons, right? Now, when they get there, phase 2, if you're not doing this from the beginning, from your launch of your product, you already got something in motion. Phase 2 is incorporate this into the packaging. Make it part of the experience, so when somebody receives the product, that you're having them engage with you in that way. That's gonna look like those gorgeous little like Google Play and Apple iTunes app stores. That's a QR code with an arrow going to it and a reason why you should. You know, like 3,000 animals that you can make with no experience in under 5 minutes, you know, something like that. If this box opens like this, perhaps a big call out as to why. It should be built into the product as part of the experience so that you can get people there. Then when you have, yeah, you get them for reviews, you get to do push notifications, you get to get an email list, you can have them register the product if you want to do rebates, if you want to do, you get to do anything then. But yeah, what some people do is they get super excited, they're like, yeah, Carlos, I want to do this differentiator, and do it. And then that's it. And then it's like, I'm done, I checked the box, I've differentiated. But yeah, you're still going to get the click, you're still in compliance, but you haven't really reaped the rewards of the back end of this correctly yet. So that's a good question. Does that help? Yeah. Okay. So that was number 7. Number 8 is licensing. So remember, the deeper we get into this, it is significantly harder. The defensibility goes up dramatically. But number 8 is licensing. You go to the licensing show, we have somebody here that actually went to the only one we've gone to as a group, got the license, took about a year, right? Yeah, took about a year, but he got the licensing on it, right? So imagine you get licensing with, actually the person that kind of hosted the show together, his story was he sold these kid headsets, right? And guess what? He's doing great, and all of a sudden, nothing against China, the Chinese are coming. It was these little cheap kid headsets that anyone could sell. He was gonna lose everything. So he went the licensing route, and instead he has Paw Patrol headsets. He got all these licenses. He's selling it for more. If anybody attempts to sell Paw Patrol headsets, he has an army of people, legal. Are you cold, huh? Really? Okay. I'm like hot. I'm like the whole time worried, looking to see if people are sweating, and I'm like thinking the AC's not handling up, but you're cold. Yeah. I guess GC would be the same way. Yeah. All right. So no issues. Solid brand now. He has it. As a matter of fact, I just bought a pair for the kids to do homework when they're here during the week. And they have these cozy phones that they could do, and they're licensed, and you got a whole bunch of things with Nickelodeon and all that stuff. So strong differentiator, allows you to sell more. You got to really know your numbers so you're not, hopefully you're making more in profit. Either making more in profit after you pay what you owe, or you're selling so much more that you're making a little less profit per sale, but you're overall in a much better spot. Just make sure that you know what you're doing there. So that's number 8. Number 9 and 10 are, 9 is a design patent and 10 is a utility patent, right? Which we know what those are. I won't, really go into that. You can't just make your product fit one of those. And by the way, with the licensing, it seems like the sweet spot is $1 million in sales, and they don't really care about your profit margin. You should, but $1 million in sales, and then just make sure that your product, if that's the angle you're trying to go. Like for example, I plan on launching a gummy mix brand in January. I would like licensing to be a pretty big part of it in a year and a half, 2 years. I've looked. There isn't much people doing anything in the licensing space there. But if I wanted to do like backpacks, right? And I was like, I want to get Hello Kitty. There's too many Hello Kitty backpacks out there right now. They're not going to want to do anything. So if licensing is going to be something important, I would say just be intentional about the type of product you pick to make sure there's some availability in there. Like, you probably want to get a kid product and put Masha the Bear. That's probably going to be saturated and they don't have any more. But you could do a shower curtain probably with Masha the Bear because not many people have it. So you go there, and the ease of being able to do it will just be better. So those are your 10. So that's your scale of different, and this is just number 1 on our list today. This is your scale of differentiation and defensibility that you can use to kind of vet your product ideas. Yeah.
I just want to tell you guys my experience with the licensing. So just be aware that there's 2 types of licensing. Carlos is going to come out with a brand of gummy mix. He could license it to, let's say, a brand like Popsicle. So he could license it directly to them. His name would appear somewhere in that fine print on the back, right? So that's a true licensing. You're licensing something that they're actually going to take over, and you're going to actually put their name on the entire complete product. You can also do something called co-branding, which is where your brand appears next to their brand. So in my case, my brand appears next to the American Red Cross. You guys ever seen that C4 energy drink at the 7-Elevens, and you see like Starburst candy on there? That's a co-branded flavor on there. So you can do co-branded stuff with your products as well. That takes a little bit longer because a lot of times they have sensitivity as far as like, where do they put their logo? Their logo needs to be better. Their colors need to be exactly the same. How does that cherry Starburst wrapper match with your color? So just be aware when you do co-branding, a lot of it comes down to a lot of the design elements that will come to that co-branding package. I was shocked at how inexpensive it is to license. When I first got into this, I was like, I'll go down this rabbit hole and it's not going to go far. But my licensing with the American Red Cross, $20,000 a year. That's it. I pay them a royalty on top of that, but that's a minimum you have to pay. Now, that's because I'm getting into the American Red Cross in a space where they call white spaces. So if I were getting into first aid kits, obviously they got that market kind of covered. That may cost me an arm and a leg to get into that space. So they're looking for spaces where they've never been. They call them white spaces. So the American Red Cross is really not in distilled water. So they're like, hey, no problem. So we have a small minimum guarantee, for it. So when you're getting these licensing deals, and I tell you what, it's worth, Carmen, I think you went, right? Just the amount of stuff that you could license is amazing. So TV shows, movies, movie stars, Yellowstone, MTV, Fred Flintstones, anything you can think of that you can potentially license that's out there. So don't just think of the big boys, but just think of your product and whatever will look good with it. So my experience with licensing has been surprisingly pretty good and not that big of a lift. So don't rule that out just because you're thinking like, my product, I'm not sure. It really can help. This guy from Cozy Phones really nailed it by getting Paw Patrol, on there. And then he ended up selling Paw Patrols to schools. So
That's how my kids shop. If they go to Publix, they're just walking by, I want that one, I love that one. I'm like, never had that. And it's like Paw Patrol on a juice.
Yeah. So don't ignore that one. I think it's good.
Tom Castle.
Licensing
You don't need a patent.
You don't need a patent to get licensing. How do they just knock out?
They're gonna vet your product before they put the name on it, so they're gonna wanna see your product, they're gonna wanna, put it through their smell test to make sure that, if you were selling a, ingredient, or if they're selling a, Carlos is gonna sell them a gummy mix or a gummy powder, clearly Carlos is not making that in his house, so he's making it at a factory that's gonna have all of your GMP, GMO certifications for that. They would want a popsicle, would want a vet to make sure that it's being made in a, there's no chemicals that are gonna harm a kid or something like that. And once they've done that, due diligence on their part, they basically sign off on that. So.
And they're not in the, like in this case, they're not in the water business. For them it's more publicity than anything. So they're not gonna start selling water now and go through the whole process of, making products.
I was just thinking, if it is something that's kind of in their realm, what would stop them from just going, oh, okay, well, you don't have, I'll just make my own version of what you're showing?
They don't have the bandwidth to do that. They're only gonna launch their products that they want to, so their division is on licensing a complete separate division. So the American Red Cross is a non-for-profit, so they're really not, they have a division that says, I'm gonna launch certain Red Cross products, but they have a completely separate division that's in the licensing. So
For them.
it's kinda like, even though it's left pocket,
No
right pocket,
questions?
those pockets don't talk to each other, even though
Am I
it's
cut
the same
off?
pair of hands. Okay. Thank you.
Good questions. Everybody with me so far? Good? Yeah. So that was number one. Okay, number two, it's gonna be a little simpler. We touched on it already a little bit, is molds. A few things that I want to add on the molds. In this stage, you're rarely ever gonna have this problem. I think I've only heard of it being a problem a handful of times. It may have just happened to Tom though recently, and that is in this stage, when you are getting a mold, you need to get and for some reason, this is legally, this is a thing in China, is you need to make sure, like what you're gonna see is your supplier is gonna give you a PO. It's probably gonna look like a bunch of lines on a Google sheet or an Excel sheet, right, a CSV file. And one of those line items is gonna be mold costs, right? You don't want that. You wanna ask for the mold charge to be put on a separate PO. And the reason for this is, in China, when it is structured like that, and I know this from experience, you don't own the mold, right? And what happens this way is they own the mold. And that doesn't mean that they now have the right to let other people use it. That's just bad business. But you can't take possession of the mold until you have ordered what is an undisclosed amount of units. Those amount of units are very high. So they may tell you something as, and again, if you're talking about a mold that's like $20,000, this is important, but this applies even if the mold is like 150 bucks. And that is, you recoup the cost of the mold once you have ordered 200,000 pieces, right? Something wild like that. You want to negotiate that, first of all, and when it's on a separate invoice, you tell them that you get possession of the mold. If this part you don't care about, that's fine. I do, because again, remember, you're differentiating the product. We're assuming you went through number one. We take possession of the mold. So we have somebody pick up the mold when it's not in use, and we have it taken to a factory, or I'm sorry, as a service that actually stores the mold correctly. What we found, and again, we're not just making 5,000 pieces hoping we sell out, but we order consistently. What we found is the factories we've dealt with in our categories is they just store the mold anywhere and it gets degraded. So the quality of what it's producing is dramatically decreasing every time we would produce. The other thing we found was we didn't like that we found out our supplier was manufacturing products for a competitor using our molds. So our competitor was ordering products with our molds and they didn't pay for it. Regardless, it was the principle of it, regardless of how much the mold cost. It was the principle of it. So I didn't want that to happen, and I said, no, give us our mold back. They wouldn't do it, right? They wouldn't give us the mold. So you can structure that in the beginning. They will agree to all of it if you do it in the beginning, because they want your business and they want you to place that order. But you need to structure it in the beginning. So just a little side note, hopefully it never bites you. Another way around it is to make sure your brand name is actually into the mold. So that way if somebody else manufactures it, your brand name shows up in it. Just for some products, I find that it's not as good because we had this wine aerator and there was a stainless steel band, like a collar, that put the two pieces together so you could take it apart for cleaning. And on the collar, it was a coffee accessory brand. We expanded it. It was a brand called Tanner's. So we decided to expand it into some wine stuff, and we wrote Tanner's right across the middle of it. And it's equivalent to me gifting you a polo that says Wizards of Ecom right here. Like, you're not gonna go wear it anywhere. You know what I mean? That's pretty much what you're doing in a lot of cases when you're putting it like right there smack dab in the middle on the product. And we couldn't get any sales on it, but as soon as we photoshopped it off in the main image, sales picked up immediately. So just some stuff about molds just to think about. We talked about it a bunch with differentiation already. Any questions on molds though before? Yep.
I was just gonna say, with regards to owning the molds, I also heard there's challenges based on like standards. So if you move a mold from China to Vietnam,
Good.
you may not be able to
No,
use it.
definitely not the US.
Or to US, there's like different pins and stuff that it messes it all up.
Yep, yeah, 100%. The compatibility with one machine to another, yeah, it's a nightmare.
Cross my fingers.
Yep,
There you go.
yeah, absolutely. You had a question?
Yeah, if you have a patent on that design, does that hold up over there? Does it
No, you have to have a patent in the country as well. So if you're gonna, my rule, and again, it's talk to a lawyer type of, disclaimer, but my rule is any of your IP to get it in the country you're gonna sell and the country of manufacture. It's kind of like the solid rule there. You shouldn't just wake up one day because you saw a motivational webinar and be like, we're going to the UK. Like, it should be a little bit of a process. You should say, okay, UK is on the roadmap. We like what we heard. Let's get that IP secured over there. Let's make sure we start getting coverage over there. With patents, I don't know that much about internationally, but anything we've done China and here. I don't know. Actually, Bruce, you could speak to that, can't you? Or no?
You can get you can apply for an international patent.
Right.
And that should be done immediately. Within 1 year of your US patent, apply for your US patent, you have to apply for the international patent.
Cool. UPC. This is the stage where you would get your UPCs and make sure those are locked in. That's a quick one. Hopefully you're getting your UPCs from GS1.
If you've ever done a product on Amazon and you need that little white label thing on the back,
FNSKU.
I've heard that there's just a lot more than meets the eye with that. There's some complexity behind it, if I'm wrong. Part of what I'm doing right now, if it helps for context, is I'm getting a ship. I have production going on in China. I'm going to get it shipped over to me. I was thinking about just assembling it here,
Sure.
sending it to Amazon and let them do the code and stuff. And I'm sure that's much more expensive. For a first-time Amazon seller, would you suggest attempting to do that printout and the UPCs and all these different things? Or am I thinking of two separate things at the same time?
No, it's actually a really good question. It's actually like pretty debated too in the space as to the best way to do it. I mean, if you have the margin and Amazon is willing to label it, you could do that. That's not my preferred way to do it. But what you would do is you would create the listing on the back end of Amazon, right? You'd add a UPC to create it. So you'd get a GS1 UPC barcode, you'd add it, you'd create your listing on Amazon, set a launch date a year in the future. That way it technically doesn't go live, but it's created. Don't worry about that part right now. Just, if you're gonna leave here and go create it, I'll repeat that. But if not,
I just paid the PO for the molds. So you're talking
okay,
about
so
the
yeah,
whole
you
cost
have some of your orders out of line. So what I would do is,
I haven't done anything yet. This is
right, so I would go to GS1 and get some barcodes if I was you. And again, other people chime in with the way you like to do it. This is what I like to do, is go to GS1, get the barcode.
I don't have an seller account yet.
That's okay, well, create that.
Okay.
Yeah, create that,
But I
yeah.
also don't want to pay 6 months in advance if I'm not going to get my shipment until probably right around.
Oh, you have so many fees coming your way. Don't worry about the Amazon one right now. I would more. Yeah, no, that's amazing. So you go, listen, open up your Seller Central account pro. These are good questions. You're in the right place. Open up your Seller Central account. If you pay these 3 months, somebody chime in on this, but I believe any dormant months you have, you can go back and Amazon will give you that money back, or at least they were.
If you don't have any listing active, any movement, they're gonna give
Yeah. But what I would do just for your sanity's sake is just $39.99 a month, out, that's gone. Create the account. A lot of things happen when you create the account, and like a timer kind of starts on the back end of Amazon. Your account starts getting seasoned. They randomly will say, your products come from a communist country and flag you. Like the most random things happen, and you need to deal with them. But you want to start the clock to start getting those things to happen as soon as possible. The other thing that happens is you're now going to be allowed to create an account, a product listing. You're now going to be able to go to Brand Registry and add your trademarked product there. Do you have a trademark yet? Okay, I want to back up again. So here's your homework for today. First of all, get my number so I can send you a list of stuff to do. But I would go open your, do you have a business yet?
Yes, I have an LLC.
Okay, you have an EIN?
I have an EIN.
Okay. A bank account yet?
I have a bank account.
Okay.
I started with 2 service-related businesses. This is the dream. So I started a business in May.
You said past tense, so those services still going?
They are, yeah.
I would give a separate business for your
Really?
products. Is the service related to your products?
No,
I would do a separate business.
100%.
really?
Yeah.
But now the LLC has my.
No, the cards you're gonna get, potential loans you can get, I mean, just,
Keep them separate for accounting purposes.
Yeah.
For sure, because your deductions are gonna be incredible as you keep them separate, okay? We're talking about $175 more to get a different Sunbiz LLC.
And potential to exit is gonna be more complicated.
yeah, at some point down the line, this is the dream, it's gonna be successful, you go to exit the business, your books are gonna be just crazy. The ease of transferability.
DBAs underneath. Why wouldn't I just be able to use my top level LLC? I have 2 DBAs. Like they're not.
Anytime I've done that, it's been an issue. Every time I've not done that, my accountant, everybody just like comes down hard on me about it.
6 months from now.
All right, well,
You'll regret it. So I will create another LLC, get the EIN, get the bank account, get that, then go open up an Amazon Seller Central account. Then go get a GS. If you mess up, you're gonna get my number after this, and I will give you all this if you don't want to write it. But there's like 10 steps you want to do, and there's like 15 more you want to do that you can't do until the Amazon account's open. But one of those, to your question, and I'm glad you asked it, is you're gonna want to create the listing on Amazon, but you're gonna set a date in the future as to when it's gonna be released. And this is just because if not, everyone's gonna tell you that we blew your honeymoon period, which I think is overrated to begin with. But once you do that, you're gonna get what's called an ASIN number, and you're gonna get that white thing you talked about, which is an FNSKU. At that point, it is not complicated. At that point, you're gonna be able to send it over to your supplier, and they'll be able to put it on the packaging. You're gonna save a bunch of money, a bunch of headaches, in my opinion.
I just paid $150 to FedEx like this.
Oh, yeah,
So I don't
no.
know if I'm sending the stuff over there.
Welcome to.
Huh?
Welcome.
It's so expensive to ship over, but it's not that expensive for them to ship back.
Yeah, no, welcome to. I would keep track of all those expenses.
So
And
what would you say is
So what
an estimate of the expenses that before you even have a product ready, you have to incur? Because I think that's a challenge here, maybe.
Yeah,
like
so-
you have fees all over, but you gotta start thinking like, well, to you start, you need X amount, and I know.
several $1,000s. So like cost of your business, cost of seeding your bank account, cost of the monthly on the Amazon account. I'm gonna put in at least $1,500 into product images, and I'm not just talking about Celine, who's amazing taking the product photos, but I'm talking about the image optimizations. I'm talking about maybe some 3D renders, and that's just me. Maybe you can skim it down. I'm talking about at least $1,500. You're gonna be looking at packaging, depending on your budget, depends on what you do. But if this is like you're going all in, the person that I recommend to go to for stuff like that I would use, that Tom uses, and a few others, is gonna be Vladimir, who we can introduce you to. But I would just call that $2,500. You want to get a video for your listing. I think nowadays you should get a bunch of UGC content. You're gonna get your trademarks, gonna be another $1,300 to $1,500.
You need some samples to get the trademarks.
You're gonna need some samples. You're gonna need to give away some products.
He's gonna leave, he's gonna run out.
No, but
No, I need this stuff.
no, but hear me.
Including like everything, I mean, there's levels.
I would think,
There's a bare minimum.
sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's like the bare minimum, right, like subscriptions, payment, things like that, you can get away without. I mean, and then he goes to another level, like giveaways, and then whatever you wanna do as far as your
Shipping.
initial shipping.
Yeah.
I mean, there are things that must happen, some others, let's say, might be negotiable.
Or there's some YouTube channels that say you could do it for $250 and launch 5 products.
I would think that one of the hardest things that I found is a trademark name. I mean, that may sound easy to you guys out there, but finding a trademark name that isn't taken, that has your social media handles and the domain available on GoDaddy that I can get without paying someone $15,000 for, takes some time, believe it or not, to find that. So, I mean, as you're doing this other stuff, be working on that. Now remember, when you set up an LLC, that doesn't have to be your trademark. Your LLC can own your trademark, right? So, what's your first name? Jason. So, Jason's LLC could own, for lack of a better word, hotwheels.com, that's your actual trademark name. So your LLC and your trademark don't have to match. So a lot of people think that it all has to match together, but you could actually have your LLC that you form, it could own several trademarks, domains, etc., and you want that LLC to own those, right, for limited liability purposes. That make sense?
Yes.
So the LLC doesn't have to match your trademark name, so get that LLC first and then start working on your brand name, what you're gonna call it, etc., and try to get them all to match, right? And that's a hard thing to find, so.
I think I'm gonna need to create like this massive long form thing that's breaking down these different sections. It just sounds scary because it's like, is there such a thing as too long? I mean, because there's easily 1,000 steps, like.
One tip, you can go to uspto.gov, just go to the trademark search, see if it's taken.
Sure.
Put the name in that you want.
Sure.
See if it's taken, and save you a lot of effort.
Yeah, that's good advice. And look, all this is doable, but I'm glad you asked it. Again, if before you leave, you connect with me, you connect with a few other people here. No one's gonna try to sell you anything, and we can give you all the steps you need to get it done right. We also have a Telegram group chat, so called, if you go to wizardsofecom.com/chat, you can join there, and I can add you to some specific groups, and you can ask questions between the meetups. Yeah. So a lot of people, you're right, he's 100% right. A lot of people do want to do that route. I have had horrible experience, like my best friend Ramon.
Oh my God.
He believes, he wants to do that. So like some people do this. I have had horrible experiences with it. I know a lot of people had some nightmare experiences with it where there's a process in there that you're going to put something, and yes, it didn't show up that somebody else has it, but it's confusingly similar in somebody else's interpretation. Oh, what was the one you went through with the, can you share that, the gas station?
Yeah, I just want to caution you back. What's your name back there? Yeah, I just want to caution you on doing it yourself for $350, because what can happen is you can apply and forget to check a box or get a kickback as bad paperwork. The next thing I want to challenge you with is that sometimes you may be searching that nobody has this word, but it sounds like something similar. So my name of my CPAP brand with the American Red Cross is called Resway. Well, unbeknownst to me, now mind you, Resway with an R is a whole lot different than Yesway. Yesway is a brand of convenience stores in Texas. And this a-hole decided that he was going to hire some attorney, his trademark attorney, to come after me because Yesway and Resway sounded similar. Now, I won, but it was still a pain in the ass. So I encourage you to get a lawyer, a trademark lawyer that will do a lot of that deep dive search for you. Yes, it's going to cost you a couple $100 more, but that's what I recommend. Ramon is actually going through, he's naming his, there's some rules around this that I don't know. He's naming this trademark a Spanish word. You gotta be very careful when you name your stuff words. You can't trademark words. If you do, you kind of jumble them up a little bit. So there are some techniques that they have. You know, you just can't say, I'm gonna trademark the word cutting board. You can't do that. That's a word that's used in everyday life. So you gotta be careful about that trademark stuff, which is why I'm cautious about doing it on my own. I'd rather a trademark lawyer come back to me and say, of the 3 ones you gave me, this one's got a 99% chance, this other one's got a 50% chance, this other one's got a 50%. So I know it's an extra expense, but it sure will make me put my head on the pillow at night, because that trademark process takes 1 year, about 11 months right now. So if you've gone through and you've branded this whole thing with what you think is going to work, and then the trademark comes back and says, not good, now all your packaging that you just did, and all your branding, and all your social media handles, and everything you just did, you're completely screwed, right? So don't, because you're not going to get approval for it. The good news is on Amazon, you can get approved through brand registry, so you can get all the bells and whistles of a trademark, in like 3 weeks, I think?
Yep, under 3
So
weeks.
you can get all those bells and whistles, but what happens if you get all those bells and whistles, and then a year from now, all of a sudden they're like, they strike your trademark, and then you're screwed. So if you have the backing of a lawyer, it's gonna make you feel better about investing more in that process. So that's why I encourage you to do that. Sorry to get off on that rabbit trail, but I think it's
No, it's good, it's good, it's good 2 points. A lot of people do it that way, and there's a ton of people that have not had an issue. I've had, I would say the majority of the time you don't, but man, two opinions that are both right. But when you do have that issue, can you imagine? You're doing great, you've hired some people and everyone's banking on you, and all of a sudden your brand, I mean, everything is just gone. And then you're sitting there saying, well, there's no way to pay your way out of this, and for less than $1,000 it could have been different. But you check your risk tolerance, and
all of the stuff that we're talking about can be done fairly quickly, so don't, I mean,
But
kudos to you for putting an order and getting.
but it's a good share.
Your molded, that's great. Just slow down a little bit and get these things right, so that when you land that plane, you land it safely. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a lot more questions, but I don't wanna.
No, but then you can keep them coming. Igor, what you got? Yeah, this is what this is about. What you got, Igor?
We've all been through the same learning curves you're going through, so.
I recommend that if you simplify the brand, the trademark, you register in US and in China. Because China is, some people is crown, trademark, is in China. You can export.
Yeah, so it is true that you can get trademarks cheaper and more affordable in other countries, and you do have to watch out sometimes that somebody will go in and grab a trademark. Like if you go on there and call your brand something, they'll go in there and file first on that in and get you blocked. So it definitely is something to consider. I recommend not, like for example, UPC barcodes. You can go to gs1 like .uk and you could save several $100s in getting your barcodes over there. But little by little, Amazon is beginning to start saying, hey, so like, if it's a loophole and if it's a way to save a bunch of money, I would just think twice about what happens down the road. Amazon is very unforgiving in certain areas, and the last thing you want is your listing of 10,000 reviews, doing great, and Amazon's like, no, this GS1 barcode, it's not for the US. And you're like, yeah, but I have one now. No, you can create another listing. So, like they're like that. It's very severe. Similar to like you've sent products to Amazon and you're like, oh, can you just move it to this SKU? No, they don't do that. So it's very, very severe in how they do things. So I recommend not overpaying unnecessarily, but in a few areas like your GS1, your images, your listing creation, that wouldn't be the area to skimp.
Getting back to the FASQ that was with Michelle's question, is a good way to handle your product inside Amazon. So that's why it would be, as Carlos said, if you have your seller account open and you get the FASQ for that listing that you want to have, you can send the PDF or the sticker, and they can put on the manufacturer line, put the sticker in that besides the UPC that you're gonna have for the product.
Yeah, good point. Next one's going to be requesting samples. Sounds super straightforward. It's not. So,
I forgot about that one,
yeah, requesting samples. So, when you request samples, I discovered this accidentally one time. Is I wanted to sell this manual coffee grinder, and I contacted a factory in China to send me a sample of their manual coffee grinder, and they did. And I accidentally, because I had a few different Alibaba accounts, I accidentally in a different Alibaba account contacted the same supplier, and I asked them for a sample of their manual coffee grinder, right? I received 2 different manual coffee grinders. I mean, outside branding and packaging and all. So I had been doing this for quite some time at this point. And what happens is, it's a bit of a shock when you first start, but most factories don't sit on a whole bunch of surplus of inventory just waiting to ship this out to you. So let's say this factory does have the capacity to be able to create manual coffee grinders, and maybe they're great, but your purpose is not to find out whether they can, because you see that online. Your purpose is to see if the quality of that manual coffee grinder is something that you like so that you can proceed with it. You're not getting that if they're not sending you the manual coffee grinder that they make. So I discovered that what they'll do is they'll just go down the road, because a lot of the like factories cluster together, and they just grab a coffee grinder from, I don't know, somewhere in Yiwu or somewhere else, and they ship it to you. And they feel like it's good. They're not trying to dupe you, but you are just trying to evaluate the quality of the product in the sample. So there is a way around this, and this is just a good thing to do when you start. If you're working with factories, and this is domestic or overseas, but let's talk about China for a second. You want to be working with inspection companies, right? This could be that they exist, that they're solvent and not about to go out of business 2 weeks into your mass production. You want to get them to do pre-shipment inspections before you pay the remaining balance on your order. You want them to do random inspections sometimes when it's appropriate. You might want to do container loading inspections if you're trying to like maximize something and get it into AWD. A lot of different things you're going to want to do. But there is another type of inspection called a golden sample. And the golden sample is going to run you somewhere between 150 to 300 bucks, depending on who you're working with. BD inspection up there, if you scan that code, they'll give you a discount to do it, which is the one all the way here to the left. So BD inspection, or V-Trust, who I've worked with for 15 years. What happens with a golden sample is you go to get a sample of your product, and you instead know who you're working with, and you're like, yep, I'm about to ask these people for a sample. And then you're like, you pop on over to BD Inspection or to V-Trust, you contact them and say, hey, I'd like to order a golden sample inspection from you. They're like, okay, great. You do an email introduction between the BD Inspection and your factory, and you're like, hey, we'd like to get samples. So-and-so is gonna coordinate the samples with you. They go to the factory, again, 150 to 300 bucks, and they go pick up 3+ samples, whatever you want, but at least 3. And this is what happens. First, they make sure that they're identical, right? Second, they match it to invoices to show that they actually produced this. They send you one, or however many you want. They keep one, and I call it going Fred Flintstone with it. They break this thing apart and they figure out the inner workings of this, what it's made out of, everything that you're about to approve, so that they now have a spec sheet, which we're gonna get into next. And then finally, they keep one, and that becomes the golden sample. So now, when you go do a pre-shipment inspection on your products on a mass production order, and you send them to go inspect it to make sure everything's right, they have something to compare it to show like, yes, this is made to the agreed upon standards and everything of what was agreed upon to begin with. Very affordable to do, and will eliminate most of the risk that people unnecessarily deal with when working with factories. So kind of 2 parts there. You want to start that relationship with your inspection company, and you want to get them involved with your samples, right? Okay. The next one I can go over, I don't really have a lot to spend on it, to be honest. I've gotten lazy on this area a little bit, but I want to bring it up because it's an important one, and that is your tech pack or your spec sheet. It's become more important now that Amazon's actually like having a lot of like certifications and safety data sheets and all this other stuff that you actually need to prove that your product is not, like, to prove that your folder is not hazmat, you know, or not a fertilizer, pesticide, you know. So you want to get that, and part of that golden inspection golden sample inspection can make this easy because they put that sheet together. If you were going to most, and this is not, I feel like nowadays you have to say this, I am not attacking the US, I love this country, okay? But people in business in the US, in my experience, have been a lot shadier than most of the people that I've worked with in China, right? And especially in this one area. And I know it seems to be the reverse if you don't have a lot of experience working with both, but I've been ripped off significantly more by people in the US than I have in China. And what happens is invoicing in China, the world revolves around that. Like, I mean, you get put away for a long time for fudging an invoice in China. Like, everyone gets paid based on these invoices. So when they go do a golden sample with your factory, they're able to, and they say, oh, this is made out of X. They need to show invoices that they ordered that material from someone for that material, so they can validate what it is easier. In the US, you just say whatever. You know, we made it in the backyard, you saw it on YouTube, you know? There's no kind of like enforcement here, but you want to start putting something like that together and getting ahead and getting all those inspection reports and certifications. And if you have a product and it's going to have the word kid in it, or if it's going to be sold to a child, you need a lot of certifications proving that this is safe for kids. And you want to make sure that the factory has that before you mass produce anything. So putting together that sheet is really important. Next one is going to be crafting the purchase order. And this is not necessarily an order, but crafting the purchase order. This one's a lot more complicated than what people do. So, the purchase order should include tying payment to performance or to delivery, which a lot of people don't do. So a lot of people complain that, you know, my factory's late in mass producing my products, right? Mine are never late. And the reason they're never late is we agree, and you got to do this in the beginning. If you've been working with them for a long time, this is going to be very difficult to do after the fact. But I go to them and say, look, I agree on this pricing, let's say. But if the product is not ready to ship within 2 working days or 2 calendar days or whatever of the date that we've agreed on in the purchase order, then I want this percentage deducted from the remaining balance that I owe, because I needed to set a lot of things up over here. I'm paying interest maybe on this stuff. So they agree to it. And the reason they agree, if you put something huge out there, they're going to negotiate it down. But the reason they agree to it, even if it's 1%, it doesn't matter. It's the principle, because they will never be late. They will never be late again to where they ever have to pay you that. But you get that included in the purchase order, and they will just never be late in mass producing your stuff. The other thing you want to talk about, and it's surprising to me how many brands don't do this and could be saving a lot more money, is once you have negotiated your pricing, and once you have your purchase order ready and you're ready to go, you want to do something at the end, and that is, here is the industry return and defect rate for this product. This means even with you doing the best you can and me bringing in an inspection, there is a 1-point-something% chance that the key for this jewelry box that should have 2 is only going to have 1. That this is going to break. Even if they're amazing, that's going to happen. You can get that deducted. You could say, listen, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to send you all that back. They're going to freak out. They want you sending this stuff back to China, right? They're going to flip out. And they're going to say, no, we're not going to do that. And again, this is important that you negotiate this after the fact. Otherwise, they'll just build it into the pricing to begin with. But you let them know that and say, here's the option. I can send you all this back, and you can credit it to me. Or you can take a percentage off this total to let me pay that much less. Or you agree that here is the protocol that I need to follow anytime I have to cannibalize a unit to get an extra key, or something broke, or it was reported from a seller, that this is how I'm documenting it and this is sufficient proof so that on my next order, that counts as money towards my next one. I really don't care which one happens, but we have to have an agreement that that happens, and it never fails. I mean, if you're ordering a comb with no moving parts, it's probably perfectly fine and there's going to be no defect on that. But for most of the other things, there's issues. And you want to get clear on that so that you can get that as, you know, money back to you, and you get made whole, because at the end of the day, you paid for it. What was the other part on this? Any questions on that? Yeah.
Could you, like, it was like 3 paragraphs you just said. Could you, like, paraphrase that into 2 sentences? Like, the first thing you said, if the product is not ready within 2 days or 3 days, I want
Tie pay to performance.
Okay.
So that one would be tie pay to performance. The other one would be returns, refunds, and warranties. I just bunch it all up under that.
Another thing to consider, and I don't know what your product is, Jason, but import codes. Do you know which HTIN code you're under?
No.
So we want, in our printing business, we wanted to import some core glass and plexi. Pricing was fantastic. I could not wait to get over here, and I'm like, I'm going to get a warehouse, and I'm going to resell it to every printing company around Miami-Dade County. I didn't realize that there was like a 55% tariff on
Yeah,
or
Honu.
he's actually saving me money in terms of figuring out which, there's so many codes. Like, it's like a phone book of codes. So finding that right code can be the difference between 25% and 2% or 0%. So barcode, I mean, just understanding what you're importing to make sure.
That was next.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. It makes sense. No, it's okay to do that. I'm just ribbing them, but yep.
This time we use, I recommend it to how many days to produce. No right days. Only I recommended right once they finish, maybe 20th November, only day.
Right.
Day delivery. Only 20 November.
That's
no, right, 20 days produce, because 20 days maybe half.
yes. So I don't know if you guys got that, but that is I've never heard it said that good actually. So I didn't put this in what I was about to say because some people kind of roll their eyes when I do it but he just said something that I'm like, I'm now going to start using that moving forward. So what happens is the part that I said in the beginning about tying pay to performance or pay to delivery, which is getting them to agree to ship by this time, no more than 48 to 72 hours after, or there's a penalty of X%. The problem is when you say, we agreed to 30 days, but is it 30 working days? 30 working days here and in China is two totally different things. Are we counting US holidays, Chinese holidays? There's a lot. And they're not the same. So it gets really confusing. So now you have to go back and you got to amend this purchase order to say, we're talking about 30 calendar days in China, 30 calendar working days in China, blah, blah. But what he just said is not to do that and instead put the date as to when things need to be delivered. I think that's great. I think that's really smart.
But this time we all contract with only days. Right days.
That is, it sounds so simple. I feel like dumb for not doing it, but that is very, very smart. So put the date that you agree that you're going to deliver, because that date, we're just talking about whether it's morning or night. So that's a good one.
And the first order you check 100%, inspection 100%, and next order check 100% all check one by one. And next time maybe half check inspection. And I recommend that check how many kg product, because it's easy. Maybe 20 to come little, this maybe effect change inside little parts.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second, because I've not been successful in getting 100% of my order inspected unit by unit in the beginning, but if you can, that's great. But so it's tie pay to performance or delivery. The next one, returns, refunds, warranties. That sums it up. The next one I put is, and this is all under craft your purchase order. The next one is inspections under craft your purchase order. And what this is you tell them, hey, we do a pre-shipment inspection. We agree to use a third party and we agree to pay for a third party inspection. However, if that inspection fails and you fix the issue, the subsequent inspection you're responsible for. And all subsequent inspections until they get passed that you're on the hook for. So what happens is they agree, but they do not agree to pay for the third-party inspections. What they say is, you pay for the subsequent third-party inspections, but we'll take it off the remaining balance on the purchase order. I'm okay with that. I'm just trying to not have to pay for all the inspections just to get the thing that I wanted to begin with, that's all. But that next one would be inspections. Oh, I was talking about that in the tech pack and spec sheet. Yeah, that's a good one.
And you say effective, don't pack it. You say effective, have inspection, you don't pack it. Because after inspection, you pack it together, pack it to box.
Right, yeah, I've never had someone stick me with that, but yeah, once they take everything out and inspect it, you shouldn't have to pay to put them back in the box.
I'm just doing they're gonna, after they create the molds, they're gonna send me a video.
I wouldn't do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with the video. I mean, get the video, but I would send an inspection company in.
I tell you what, the inspection companies are absolutely amazing for what you get. Before the pandemic, I was importing catheters to sent somebody there to do this, sent me like a 45-page inspection thing with an FDA certificate stamped on it, and I was like, wow, I think it was $300, $275, and that gave me a lot of peace of mind. Plus, I had them send me the sample, so.
Can I add a little bit of context? that
Yeah.
I think would help just for the conversation.
Yeah.
I'm doing, my first item is an extremely unsophisticated,
Doesn't matter.
complex part. It's two molds, very, very small, like 50 cents total for the thing. I got the molds super cheap. They're probably not gonna be that awesome either.
What's the material?
ABS.
Okay.
And the molds are steel supposedly, hopefully not aluminum, hopefully they're really steel. And both, one is 800, one is 515, and I'm paying 35 cents for one piece, and I'm paying 15 cents for the other piece. So I'm not, I don't, and this is because it's my first invention that I'm going with, and I just feel as though I don't need to do some of these things because of the lack of complexity.
But I mean, how much,
Am I wrong?
I would, your choice of words, but yes, I would say you're wrong. Yeah, I would say you're wrong. Even if you went with the fact that you just have $1 in costs into the manufacturing of this, right?
Yeah, and I paid everything up front.
Yeah, but even if that was the case, you're gonna put a bunch of money into a listing. You're gonna put a bunch of money into ads. You're gonna put a bunch of time into this, and the cost of the inspection. Not to mention, I've shared this a few times. Years ago, I decided to sell this. I never skipped the inspections, and I never shipped products straight to Amazon FBA in the past. Like now, things have changed a lot. But I decided to sell this high-end spoon. It was just a stainless steel spoon, no moving parts, simple mold, like everything you're saying. And this is just like selling for like 60 bucks, right? And I decided to not get an inspection. I decided to ship it straight to Amazon FBA, right? What's a spoon? That's it. We saw a video and we saw pictures. Like what am I missing, right?
Yeah.
Right. So like, we shipped it in there, and I got destroyed. Everyone said that the product was used. Finally, when we were just like, we hit the panic button, and we're like, we need to recall this. Something's wrong. Like we know they weren't eating out of them. We don't get it, and we recalled them. During the, let me take this back. No, we inspected it. We inspected it, and we got the video. We just shipped that. The only thing we did different is we shipped it straight to FBA. In the inspection and the packaging of the product, they put the stainless steel spoons in the packaging barehanded. So there was oily fingerprints from the hand just putting them in. They didn't get caught on the picture and didn't get caught on the video. We would have never suspected that. And nobody wants to pay $60 for a spoon that has a fingerprint on it. Right. So like you just, for me, that story means like you don't know what you don't know. And the cost of the inspection here is almost nothing. You're also kind of setting a bad precedent with who you're working with, because as the relationship continues going, you don't stop doing the inspections. It's not a trust thing. It's business, and this is how we catch things. This is what's done to catch things. I bet you Apple still does inspections. You know, like you continue doing the inspections. You don't stop based on like, we've been friends now for 2 years, there's no need to do this. It's not questioning their loyalty. You just do them. Trust me. Otherwise, you'll get burned at some point.
I already feel as though the ABS, I already feel because of how cheap the mold is, I want the product to be glossy.
You're also saying it's cheap and it's a metal mold?
No, yeah, it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you,
That'll be a red flag for me.
what's your selling price for this?
$4.99.
$4.99.
$4.99 initial, and I'm gonna boil the frog, and I think I'm gonna get it to $7.99.
That's a profit extinction field on Amazon.
The licensing is gonna be, for that reason, I'm gonna be trying to go.
It is an invention,
Yeah,
and you got a patent on it?
no,
Well, the licensing in most cases, for the type of licensing I think you're talking about, is $1 million in sales. You have to sell a lot of those freaking widgets.
yeah. Well, I don't think I can,
Can I,
yeah.
before you get into some more stuff, I'm just gonna say it's a little metal figurine, for example, right? So let's just say it's a metal figurine for something, Dungeons and Dragons or whatever. And yeah, it doesn't cost you much to do that. What I would look at doing is selling a set, selling more. I wanna see you get your price up $20,
No, I
$25.
can't. Next invention will. This is opening price point item, next one middle price
I just
point.
want to caution you, I sold something for $9.99, I got killed.
Yeah, I know.
Because after Amazon takes a big chunk out of your butt, when you're doing something under $10,
Yeah.
and you're left with nothing, maybe you're left with $1 or $2, and then you gotta advertise to get the next sale. So it's like you're chasing your tail, so just be cautious of that price point.
My strategy is that this is my entry into
Okay.
product
If you,
design.
it's an invention.
It is.
If you do a patent search at all?
No.
You can do a cheap patent search when you go to ato.com. Do a patent.
Throw him a cube. Throw him a cube, please.
Oh, yeah.
At the very least, before it comes out, you should file a provisional patent, which should protect you for about a year.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, you could be, I would do the search, but I wouldn't let that stand in your way. But if you file a provisional patent, you have some protection for at least a year, until you file a utility patent. And you should also file a design patent too. If you think it's gonna be good, then it's worth it.
Here's another thing.
But don't, I mean, it's not cheap, but if you really believe in it, you think it's gonna set the world on fire, then
No. It's
There-
niche.
there-
I think this is a $20,000 revenue a year item at first without the licensing. I just want to get my entry.
So,
into
I'm really not in the habit of like just, I don't know what your product is, so I just don't want to crush it. I'm more like, let's figure out how to make it work. And everybody here is kind of the same way, and they're just sharing like concerns about stuff. He's giving you some golden information. I would say this, and it's the last thing I never want to say, trust me. You know what I mean? You're just starting to come here. I would encourage you to really get to know some of the people here. There's some people here with a lot of experience, myself included, that it's not necessary, but if you wanted to do an NDA, my wife wouldn't even let me launch that product, even if I could, right? Like, so share it, you know, Carmen sitting beside you, Cesar, and I'm missing some people, but you know, Tom, like, we're not gonna steal your product. So if you got to a point and you were unsure, like I can help you do all the things you need to do to get started, and so can everybody here. But you are throwing something out there at $4.99. I could think of like, I don't need my whole hand to count the exceptions that would make a $4.99 thing doable. And that alarms me, but rather than like spend the next 2 hours saying them, knowing your product would allow me to give you something a lot more targeted, and so would a lot of the other people here. So consider that once you've gotten comfortable with some people here. No one's gonna be offended too if you go say, can I send you an NDA just to be careful so you can take a look at my product? Nobody I named I think would be offended.
We launched a $2, it's not actually probably cost like 67 cents. We got it from China here for $2 and we sold it for $31. So don't
iDub?
anticipate what?
iDub?
No, it was it's a little connector that goes into a CD
Oh, yeah.
thing, and it actually, it's just like it's like a little piece of PVC, but because nobody else had it, we sold it for like $32, $34, and we just started dropping it down.
Or Raul?
Don't underestimate if you got something really unique, don't just sell it because you think it's going to afford. Because that unique, there's nothing wrong with going down in price too, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's very similar to other items that are priced similarly, like $6.99.
On Amazon?
On Amazon.
Oh, okay.
So it's really kind of just the nature of the product. $4.99 and $9.99. But can I ask one question that's
Yeah.
super specific with regards to ABS? The mold is super cheap. I decided to not use a liaison. I'm going straight to the manufacturer. Communication's been great. They've been awesome. The question is I don't think I'm going to get a glossy item. I don't think it's going to be like
Fernando, ABS is.
going to be matte, and then I may need to do some kind of acetone type of stuff, like on my end.
Do it there and up there.
Oh, you just said acetone in a sentence, like you lost me. Like that, it's out of my pay grade.
Oh, I mean, it's out of mine too. I'm
No.
just trying to figure out if the product is not matching what I have
For
in
$4,
mind.
I want to make sure that product is ready to go, wrapped up in a nice bow, and I'm ready to sell it on Amazon. I don't want to be doing
Hey, how about this? Amazon might not be. You're saying other people on Amazon are successfully selling that product at $6 something or something?
Yeah.
Well, that's a big plus. I'm curious as hell about the product now. So if you ever decide to show it to me, like, I'm curious. Let me do this for time's sake. Today I was like, I am not going to go over today, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good, guys.
Hey, Jason.
Is it 1 minute? Why? It looks like 20 and now it's 29. Go ahead. You.
You can do it yourself, right?
If material plastic, rubber, silicone, we check smell because
Very good point. You're dropping some gold today, Igor. Jason, check the smell. He brought up a good point. With those types of materials, the smell, you could get perfect product, get crushed at negative reviews because of the smell of it. So just get the smell. And you're not going to catch that on video either. But you can ask an inspection company to also check for that during an inspection. So, boy, you're on fire today, Igor.
And ABS plastic is different. Maybe
Yeah? Well, let's rip through this. Okay, last thing on the purchase order, and this is really going to tie in, this is going to cover two things, which is deposit to the supplier and on the purchase order. You want to make sure, and this happens a lot if you decided to bring in, and this if you guys like this topic, we could do an entire session on it, but having to do with sourcing agents, right? Sometimes you don't want to be there all night going through Alibaba on your own, and you want to work, and there's sourcing agents on Alibaba. There's some good ones, and there's some that they've dedicated a special place in hell to, right? So, but almost all the time when you're working with a sourcing agent, they're trying to build in some kind of profit or defending with some scarcity mindset that they don't want you to pay the factory direct or be able to have that information, and they want you to pay them and go through them. Avoid that at all costs. Yeah, so you want to make sure that on the purchase order is the chop, which is their stamp on the purchase order of the factory. Like that has a lot of legal implications in China. Make sure it has the company chop, make sure it has their company name, and make sure that that bank account is a business bank account, right? Yeah. So what's happened to me before is I was working with a sales rep, and the rep was giving me a bank account, and the company never caught it. Well, I placed a purchase order. Company told me I wasn't working with the rep anymore, but I got them filed in my system for my wire transfer. So I sent my wire transfer went to a personal bank account. You actually have a lot of recourse with your money if it went to a business bank account in China. Yeah, so just make sure, just check that. That's going to cover two. One was deposit to the supplier. I wanted to talk about that. And also it should be the last thing that's on the purchase order. Something I guess to talk about, I don't think you should, doesn't hurt, but I really think it's just bad form. I'm trying to think of a non-crude way to use a dating analogy, and I can't think of one. But it would almost being like trying to talk about third date stuff on the first date. And I feel like, did I do that good, Carmen? No? What I'm trying to say is there is a stage in every relationship to bring up certain things. And the first date here is kind of not it. Don't go in asking for terms. You haven't spent any money with them. You probably just spent the last 3 weeks trying to get the smallest order possible while also paying the cheapest amount. You're not in a good place to start talking about terms and like paying less up front. It's just not a good time, and you're shooting yourself in the foot later. You're just basically with putting a big light in the air saying, I'm super unprofessional, I have no idea what I'm doing. Don't do it. There is a time to talk about terms, but let's save that for another session. Packaging. Create packaging. You're doing that in this stage. Remember, we want to create something. We talked about differentiation that is just a killer in the main image. Your packaging, if it is a brown box or a mailer, is not going to help you in the main image. If your packaging can be something that is functional packaging, Dave Bryant, a friend of mine, co-host of Ecom crew, he came up with these tow ropes. He got in the tow rope space, like towing vehicles. Very competitive. It's rope. It's super hard. What he did, I mean, he did a lot of stuff, but besides putting little flechas on the rope that reflected at night so you could find it, he also came up with a bag. If you've ever seen those like jumper cable bags, you open it twice and it's destroyed. And then your stuff's just thrown in the back. He took the time to create a bag that was very functional and durable that could actually hold this rope. So he could show that in the listing that his packaging was like, could be a product in and of itself. Your packaging is also a billboard for you to be able to insert keywords after the fact during image optimizations of your product. You'll see this sometimes with, a long time ago, Anthony Confrancesco gave a presentation here where he's talking about, and to that day, it hadn't dawned on me for these types of products that this was it, but those tubs of protein powder again, you'll see, once you see this, you can't unsee it. On Amazon, you're gonna see like this star that says 50 grams of protein, like an award-looking thing on it. That's not on the packaging when you buy it. They took the image and they imposed this after the fact to optimize the image of the product. So when you have packaging that it's more of like a minimalist feel, it leaves empty space that if you don't insert anything there, those are called dead pixels. When you're evaluating a listing and trying to optimize it, you don't want dead pixels. But you do want kind of like to create a dead pixel opportunity for you to insert things. Make sense? Good, okay. So packaging is a huge one. If you're gonna go into frustration-free packaging, now would be the time to do it. If you wanna use terms like eco-friendly and biodegradable, those are tough terms to pull off, but if you can, you wanna work with someone that does that kind of packaging. Like this is that time to figure that out, all right? Here's the last one, number 9. So that was number 8. Number 9, create product instructions, manuals, and inserts. Too many people skip this. They think their product's so simple that it doesn't require it. Or they do it and they just use it as, this is the opportunity where I try to get people to leave reviews. You know, you just create something here. This is the experience. If you create a good experience here, it will translate into more reviews. Some things that I've been playing around with ever since we took this tour to this factory in Boston, and I talk to so many people that are developing products, and I get to say, hey, try this thing, I heard it, and we were just talking about it with Ting and Chris actually. Get a scent and just spritz it inside of your packaging. I'm telling you, when you look at it across the sales, you will look at it and see that product just happens to have more product reviews than the average whatever. It's part of the experience of the product, right? It costs you nothing. Now, I don't know if you have a product and it's sold as unscented, I wouldn't spray it with lavender, you know what I mean? But like, do that. Create manuals, create how-tos, don't just create ways to get them to follow you on social media and your social media sucks, right? Send them to your app for further instructions. The app works great because it's kind of like a manual to rule them all right? That's what I had, everybody. I did better this week, only 7 minutes over. Thank you so much. There's a few different areas of this sourcing process from product ideation on. I'll start doing chunks of these every now and then and try to compile them into one really big doc. Remember, next week it's going to be packed here. So this time I am right. It is next week. So I hope to see you guys next week. Get here early if you want seats. Otherwise, you're probably going to be standing with me somewhere. And yeah, that's it. We can hang out a little bit and network. You can go on or connect, say hi, and thank you.
He's wrong. The licensing show. is the one thing about your product that I don't understand. What is your product? What is it?
It's small.
No, what is it? What is it saying about it?
On the bottom, it says
On the bottom it says doing this. Oh, shit.
well, right now it's.
This is a Thrasio example here, okay? So, Thrasio is this company right here. When it first came out with this bottle, this is the bottle. When they first did this, they put orange really big. It was the biggest thing on the bottle, and it was flipped with the colors. So the color was white with orange. They did so many different hues of that. So what they did, what does that do? What does angry orange do? What does angry orange do?
Odor eliminated.
It's an odor eliminator.
Shows right away.
So
Okay, so how can we fix the image? But I mean, the package was already done. Plenty.
So this is crucial because, in my opinion, like, let me see your bottle. Let me see your
Probably, maybe you can call me out on this, Tom, but couldn't you, like, just go get, like, what is the one, not GIF, but the one images that are, like, the ones that make it very line defined when you're doing that photo? I forget, Carlos always says that. The ones that really, like, look at the fake image, looks real.
Yeah.
I forget what that's called.
Zooray. But you can, I mean, with your listing that you have here, I would take this, I would put cooling waters right in the middle where it says tropical waters. I could really get too far in the middle of tropical waters. I could care less than talking anymore. Right in my vantage point, right there, it says made in USA.
Right, that's where you
I don't even need it to say made in USA. I can put made in USA on the top of my bottle. Why is it made in USA down here with a red, white, and blue flag?
on the bottom.
Why is it there made in USA? Is it really yeah. Let me
Can you
show
talk to us?
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Okay, so look at this one now.
Now you know let's figure that. I'm telling you already. Packaging. So just make half of it.
Yeah, you can just make a new package. You make it.
Yeah, that's it. I
Well,
do.
those two, I talked to you today about the I don't understand. I said, I can imagine. So what's your thought?
Okay, look at
And again,
look at this.
so keywords and prompts,
Right? Do you think that it comes with that 2-ounce bottle that they want? Do you think it comes with that? Absolutely freaking not. So we can put your 4-ounce with a little tag like that on it. We can put the made in USA either up on top or down at the bottom. And I would definitely put cooling face and body mist. I put whatever that is, cooling mist. I put cooling mist right there in the middle.
Well, it used to be, okay. Can you, everybody, okay, it used to be there. No, listen, why do you think I'm talking?
And then what I'd also do is spend $50. From Carlos, I think hey, we just met. Okay, so check this out, right? So here's an example.
I know.
I use this all the time. I have a couple of different accounts on Google. I have my stuff on here. So he will tell you stuff. So I've actually compared your labels. So you can get like 2 or 3 designs and then pull the items. This is my tropical waters. This one is no tropical waters. That one. And you can play with it. You can play with this one. You can have that water in the back. You can have the water in the front.
And then just
photos. And it's gonna go into the
I pulled out the store and people are using it, but I don't think it's.
It's called Meetup for Shopify videos, so it's like 2 short videos, it turns it into a movie. Just, once it goes to this one, that's just roll through. So a great one is
Those two ladies are awesome. Because I told them, I mean, it's still, I got to be set up.
okay, so go to this one. This is called Super Tools, the rundown.ai. And what you can do is, so what you can do is you can type in what you're looking for. So if you're looking for AI, it'll be recent AI coming out. And we're going to do the same thing. Tools. Here.
So I think if between
So I just sent you the text and I said I changed this up. I'm not, I mean, I'd like to have it right away, but I'd rather wait to get it right.
So like we're trying to work on this. We're going to go to the baby baseball fingerprint kit. So we did the baseball kit. So we did the baseball kit. The baseball kit was fine. So it's good. The baseball was. The soccer kit was good. These are other things you can do for the music. So say they got 20 grand. That's not good. But you can certainly do that. So when I started messing around with it, some of the actors said, it's not putting in leather. Putting in leather, putting in the shape of a baseball, hang out of paint. So you get that round of it too, and go for that. So I thought it was a little too big. A little too like chunky. Yeah. And we went better like that. We went to the side of it. We kind of messed around with that. And then we went to putting it on top. But I didn't like the color of it there. So we made that like that way. Everything with that. I want things like this. So I'm liking,
Okay.
So you may be like, Tom's having a baby, so what kind of baby gift can I give him? Tom's a baseball fan,